Now, these are the late Spitfires called Seafires. I'm taking these from the book that Howard Rush loaned us. There's a whole section on Seafires. These are carrier based. Looks like, at least they're in the section with the carrier based. And I'll tell you, look, counter rotating props like the Red Baron. Griffin powered counter rotating props. This book is absolutely the best book I've ever seen on Spitfires. It's unbelievable. I gotta thank Howard Rush over and over again for turning me on to this. This is a winner. Now, this whole section about this is something even I wasn't aware of. Carrier-based Spitfires. They have bubble canopies. You can notice down in this photo here. Bubble canopy. The rudder shape is slightly different. The paint job is definitely one. I know Adamusco would like that paint job. But being a carrier base, there's a whole section, a whole slew. This was a whole night of reading for me, just reading up on this section of the Spitfire. And I guess that's one of the things that's just so much fun about doing a different plane each year. You know, if you want to compete, obviously the way to be the ultimate competitor is never build more than one plane your whole life, and then you'll know you have the best plane always, and whatever it is. All kind of philosophies. But I just love the idea of having new planes every year. And I love researching these things out. I just love having the knowledge. Now, I was just reading this book about how they had all kind of trouble. Couldn't make the rudders and fins big enough, and they went to counter-rotating props on the Griffin. Look at some of these pictures. This book is just chocked full of pictures. Anybody that loves Spitfires, hey, tell your wife, tell your girlfriend, buy you this book. What a great book. Look, counter-rotating props. Now, it might even be appropriate at some future time to be doing a Seafire version of the Spitfire, the bubble canopy version. Notice, this is a very attractive model. I won't rule that out. It, of course, has folding wings. Awesome. I just love these counter-rotating props. Unbelievable. Griffin has the high points around the engine. That would be a nice thing even on a model. The clipped wings, the rake tips. Now, this is one of the things that used to turn me on about the Red Baron. The Martin Baker 5, by the way, Frank McMillan's plane had the same thing, had the counter rotation props. Look at this from the front view. Oh my God. This is what keeps you in modeling for your whole life. Carrier-based Spitfires. A whole nother possibility for a model. Some of this book actually details out all the foreign governments that had Spitfires. These are late model clipped wing ones too. Now, what's cool about Spitfires, when they didn't have counter-rotating props, Seafires, they had 5-bladed props, like the big Sea Furies. Now, I thought some of our subscribers, especially the newer ones that haven't been through all the DVDs of the Spitfires and Seafires, that would enjoy that little outtake. That little outtake, by the way, was from 1995. 1995, and you can see at 1995, and I think that was 12 years ago, we were already thinking about it. We had gotten a book from Howard Rush, thinking about the possibility of doing a Seafire, which of course became the Seafire, which of course evolved into many other things. It's the only plane actually in the history of control line stunt that's ever won 2 concourse awards. So we're kind of proud of that. But unfortunately, our life is not about trophies or concourse awards.
It's about owning these planes and having them and enjoying them, and in the case of right now, of building them.
Well, our old friend the tree doesn't have many leaves left. Fall is definitely overdue, and it's raining today. This is not going to be a good day, but this time of year, leaves coming off the tree. Now usually I have a little benchmark here. When this tree right here loses its leaves, it's already the building season. So you can see what we have left. And the leaves are already starting to fall by the pond. Now we're going to be going to Vermont soon. We have our annual trip to Vermont coming up soon. But right now, I may have to cover the pond. The leaves are falling a lot sooner than I thought they would. But whatever it is, we've had a wonderful season. But again, the end of one season is the beginning of another. And we have Spitfires to build. Now the second of our crutches should be dry. It's been sitting here overnight. Anyway, that epoxy, now I'm just going to dress this off with a sanding block. That epoxy has dried up beautifully. And this is the whole purpose of everything. At this point in time, we want to start with rock solid crutches. These crutches now, it's almost impossible to twist them. And this, putting cross grain wood between the mounts makes this absolutely bulletproof. But the trick is, maybe I should do a little storyboard on this. That what we're trying to accomplish is to build all of the strength into the crutch to connect the wing, the motor to the wing. Let me make a little storyboard. It may be a little easier. Now sometimes you get a little bit of epoxy that just drools out the edge, especially when you use heat. Because we want to start with everything true, 90 degrees aligned, before we go on to the next step, which is going to be, well, I want to do a little storyboard because this has evolved over the years. This hasn't happened in one stroke of the pen. It's been an evolution. But these crutches, and the crutch we made for the Novanta, boy, this to me is about as good as it gets. Now the whole idea of all nose construction is you've got a prop and it's putting a torque back into the fuselage. As it turns, it's putting exactly the opposite rotation back into the fuselage and the wing. And if we were to make this extremely simple, what we're trying to do is connect the engine to the wing in an efficient way. And we want to do it as strong as possible and as light as possible at the same time. And there are several ways to do this, but for us, what's evolved is a way that I think is very easy to do, and it seems to work every time. But what we're trying to do is connect the prop, the forces that go on in the prop, and the reverse, the torque, the force of the prop, and the engine vibration into the wing, which is its biggest vibration absorbing entity, I guess would be the right word. Because if you were to just take the fuselage and not have the wing, see, as the engine fires and it sends that reverse thump back into the engine crankshaft, it goes right back into the wing, and the wing tries to resist it. And when everything is locked solid, that kind of stabilizes out. When it's not, what happens is all kind of resonant vibrations start showing up. You get air bubbles in the fuel. Life expectancy of every part diminishes. When you want planes that are going to last 5-10 years, this is the biggest thing that helps, is dampening and killing all that vibration right in the beginning. Now in the beginning, it was very simple. If you look back at older designs that basically had Fox 35s in them, first off, they had very small propellers. And what they would always have, or almost always, is a former right behind the engine, an 1/8" plywood former, an 1/8" plywood former right in front of the wing. And then what they would do is they would glue the tank in. Look at old Nobler plans. So the tank actually became part of the nose construction. So when you would put on the bottom block now, if you looked from the front, you had completed the box. See, here's the thing to always remember. A 3-sided box, if you go and draw up a box, is weak. It does not transmit vibration well. As soon as you close the box or add the 4th side, you've got a lot stronger of an entity. So what they figured out long ago was by gluing the tank in, a lot of the older designs, old Vico kits, if you didn't glue the tank in well, you had problems. Another thing too is if you go back to these engines vibrated like crazy. Loop scavenged engines work in an RPM range and typically are a lot more vibration prone than modern engines that operate in a little bit higher RPM range. Now along comes what we'll say the evolution of modern designs, where you wanted to take the tank out and shim the tank. Years ago, nobody shimmed the tank because everybody knew a Fox 35 and a Vico tank were pretty good. But that's not the case now, and it's not the case because we always want to allow for new engines becoming online, and we want to be able to shim incrementally, even if one engine or one setup on the engine is a little bit different. So by having a tank, that tank box has to be bigger, but the trick to all of this is, as it always is, motor mounts, the bulkhead that's going to be our take-apart system, we want to be able to shim the tank up and down. So the box tends to be bigger than it really would be in the past. But here's the limiting factor to this, is the header to all pipe engines eventually gets in the way. So you have to allow for or know right away where that header is going to, where this bend here is where the interference is. And we've made tanks with little V notches, but it's not a good idea to get the tank too close to the header because this is hot. And if you're just putting heat into the front of the tank, which may or may not in hot weather be a problem. So what we've evolved this into is, right now we pretty much know where this tank is going to shim, and we've made the tank pretty much all of the 90 ships. It becomes a little more than the minimum I've ever shimmed it is 1/4 of an inch off the mounts. Now of course the engine is 1/8 of an inch off, the shim is 1/4 of an inch. So we're really 1/8 of an inch up in midair to start with. But both the 76s and the 90s never get shimmed any lower than that, or not traditionally. So what it means is we're able to glue this shim in place. You know, when you look at a crutch, a typical crutch, and you've got the wood between the mounts, now that's strong, there's no doubt about it. And relieving out the channels like we do seems to be okay. We've done that for, this is going to be the 12th year. We've never had one that had a vibration issue yet or some kind of problem. That seems to be an okay way to lose a little weight. But there's a way to gain a little strength, and it's free. And that is, we're going to glue the tank shim in. If we know the minimum shim, we can glue that shim in right now. Because if we slide the tank in and out and that shim is just going along for the ride, we haven't gained anything. It's a lose-lose. We're just having a loose piece of wood in there, not doing us any good. Also, I wanted to put a skin on top of here because what happens in the past, when I'd make a tank shim out of balsa, sometimes as time went by, the tank would start sinking into the balsa and I'd lose the exact shim. So I'm either going to cap this shim off with a piece of 64th plywood or some carbon fiber. I haven't decided yet until I see how this is going to pan out. But this system now is lighter because I've removed this wood and stronger because I've glued this in. So in essence, this is an evolution. It's lighter and stronger than what we've had in the past. Now the trick, as always, is is to make sure that when we connect this to the doublers, that we've got a solid glue joint, of course. And then we want to know where the tank is going to shim at its maximum, add maybe 1/8 of an inch, put that floor in, so we can slide the tank right out the front. Now we really, in other planes, we haven't been able to do that because the nose tapers so much. But in this plane with a wide nose, and we'll just put some gussets in the corner here, and we'll have, what we will have in essence is a completed box, a 4-sided box. And that should be, see, and the way a structure like this gets stronger is simple. The wider you make this, it gets stronger and stronger. It's got more leverage to transmit that twist. Now we anticipate using bigger 15 and 16-inch props on this plane. So having all that rigidity built in without a lot of extra weight, I think we're really going to be way ahead of the game. Now, because of the extra width, we might be able to get away with some other lightening techniques, which once I start making a structure, I'll see. As an example, if you were to make the body thinner and try to make one of these real skinny bodies, now I remember at Brodex, John Havel had a real thin body. He had 1/8-inch plywood doublers in it. Well, you know what? Or 3 32nd doublers. You need them. But as we get this big further and further apart, we can use even lighter and lighter pieces of plywood, or we can sand more off the fuselage side, and in essence we're going to have shells on this, so it's going to be a big hollow structure, but because of its girth, it's going to be able to transmit a lot better than a thin, narrow fuselage. A thin, narrow fuselage is always vibration prone. This is going to be the core of what we're going to be doing, and today's a good day to start it. I can get the tank shims made up, decide how I'm going to cap them off, maybe even by the end of the day have the 2 crutches ready to start cutting plywood doublers. We're just going to have to see how the day plays out in terms of shop work. Now, one giant thing we have going for us right now, and see, it would have been inappropriate to start this project without having a year to develop the motor, because this is going to be built on, as Elliott Scott says, built on the shoulders of giants. I don't want to go back and reinvent things that I've learned in 2007. Now in 2007, we spent, and if you go back and look at even the memories tape, memories of 2007, there are a lot of little things that we learned along the way. In the very beginning, we had no idea where the tank shim was going to wind up. And that would right now be a giant handicap if we were clueless about the tank shim. We didn't know how much fuel. I know right now that I'll probably be able to get away with a 6-ounce tank, and it'll be overkill. But if I have room for a 7-ounce, hey, even better. But I know if all else fails, I can put a couple of head shims in and get away with 6 ounces of fuel. The head shape. Now, we have had 4 different heads on the engine under 4 different sets of conditions, and kind of shake and bake and figured out what combinations we like in the Novanta. But again, this we didn't know in the beginning of last year. When we went to Texas, we had the stock head on the engine, and it was making 10 horsepower. It was just a runaway freight train for most of the time. Then we went to heads that had way lower compression, and then we had another set of conditions that were biting us all the time. But this is evolution. This is how this all works. And what I wanted to do all this testing in what amounts to be, Novanta was really a test plane. And the biggest one, the exhausts. Now, in our Spitfire, I'm not going to even make any accommodation for a tuned pipe because it would ruin the semi-scale look at a fuselage. But we know we have several choices. Let me just get a couple of them out. We've had single tube headers, we've had double tube headers, and these are not the ones, these are the ones that Scott Dinger made. We have the tuned pipes. We've run tuned pipes that are a little bit longer than necessary, a little bit shorter. What we've learned is, and Rich Oliver has his exhaust system, what we've learned is we'll be able to put this exhaust system in the nose of the plane in a way that it's not going to ruin the look of the semi-scale plane. It would be horrible to have to me horrible, to have a beautiful semi-scale nose and then out of the bottom, or especially when the pipe doesn't fit in right and it's sticking out like a chicken laying an egg in the back. So this is a critical thing, and I wanted to do all that development in Jose's plane and in Novanta. So in the Spitfire, we'll be able to run an exhaust system that I hope can be totally contained in the body. I know pretty much where my tank shim is going to be. I know pretty much how big the tank has to be. And I have a real good feel now for what head shape, what size, and what venturi. Now the only part of this that I really wish we had more of, I wish I had a few more venturi blanks to try smaller, and even smaller than what we have in there now, just to see at what point it breaks off. Because I'd always like to make a few. I don't have any spares. That's the problem. I've been sleeving them down with copper tubing. But I'm sure between now and the time we actually get to run this motor in this plane, I'll be able to get some from Rich and Dub. But all this development, all this evolution is the foundation of what we're going to be doing in the next building season. And that building season has started in the last couple of days as the weather has totally gone down the drain. And we've gotten into this, it just looks like it's getting worse by the day, but what's happened is we've been spoiled. We have an extra month that we normally would never have. So we're going to take advantage of it, but it's time to start grinding out the yardage here. And the next step is to put a final tank shim on both of these. Okay, the first step on this is going to be to get the engine out, of course. And I'll make both of them up at the same time. That'll save a little bit of shop time anyway. I want to have some nice, smooth, flat surfaces. I'm going to check that I haven't built a warp in. Again, that's every step of the way, checking that I've not built a warp in. Oh, that's nice. Well, I got it upside down too, flat on the table. Just a little bit of that epoxy has oozed out. Okay, I gotta find a good piece, a solid piece of 1/4 inch wood. I know I'm never going to be lower than 1/4 of an inch. In fact, if I really were looking to make this only for myself, I would go a little higher, maybe a 1/16 higher. The reason I'm leaving it at 1/4 of an inch is because Joe likes to make his own tanks, and his tank might be a little thicker, in which case it would have to sit down. So we're going to leave the option, and I don't know which one of the crutches Joe will pick. I always give Joe the pick of the litter here. The pick of the litter. Well, they're probably within a gram or two of each other. But anyway, the important thing is I don't want to build myself into a box. I know 1/4 of an inch would be the minimum, and it does not account for the 1/8 of an inch, which now actually the tank is an 1/8 of an inch up off the mounts. And another thing, if you're at the point where you've got the plane all trimmed out like we do with the Novanta, there's no reason you can't take the final shim and just glue it in, assuming you can still get the tank in and out. That's another choice. At the very end of it, you can just glue it in. But when it's glued in, it's adding strength. When it's just sitting in there, it's going along for the ride. Now this is a piece of nice, straight and hard. The problem is I wish I would have a piece of sea grain, but it's a shame to waste a piece of sea grain for a tank shim. So this is kind of a B grain, C grain kind of piece. And what I want to do is I want to go right up to the pads, right up to the edge here. I want to leave this oversized by maybe a 1/16 on each side. Because what I have to do is I have to make, actually I could just make one big giant piece. I need 3 because it's not long enough in its first piece. So if I join, I'm going to have to make 3 pieces no matter what, and then one will get cut, one will get trimmed. I may as well make all 3 up at once and just get them roughed out. They're a little bit oversized. Always just a little bit oversized so I can trim them. Once I get this in a final shape, the final dimensions, then I can do the final trimming once they're glued in place. Now this is another thing that I have learned in the past couple of years, or a few years or whatever. Right now, I just got, in today's mail, I got a supply of brand new number 26 blades, brand new 11s, and brand new razors. Now, the reason I like to get, every year, I get Brodak to send me all brand new blades. And I never don't use them up. Now, granted, I use a lot of them on shop work, but when I've been to other people's shop and I see a number 11 blade that looks like it's from World War II, I wonder how much fun can it be modeling, you know? And one of the things that makes my modeling enjoyable is when I can make nice clean cuts and I don't have to deal with the end of the wood getting all mushed up and everything. So here's my suggestion of the day. Go out, if you're going to start a new building project, buy some new blades so you don't run out on Sunday afternoon right while you're cutting wood. And many times, boy, we'll not mention any names, you see people using up these blades that they're really horrible. And I think even doing the slightest carving or cutting job, when the blade isn't nice and sharp and I'm cutting on a cutting pad, you get a nice clean cut. You do the same cut with a blade that's 100 years old, forget it. Alright, so now I've got this shim and it's oversized. But notice what I'm doing. I'm staggering the joint. The joint here, the joint on the shim is back. Just a little extra. Again, this is all free. It doesn't make the part any heavier. When you line up joints, there's a stress riser right there. And even in something like this, it's probably not going to break. It's just good to get in the habit of always doing the construction part of the plane as solid as possible, especially the nose construction of the plane. Any little strength you can buy, it's free. Now, we've left a little bit of a gap on each edge, and I'm going to fit up the other one so these both are ready to go to the next step before I glue them in place. I want to glue the cap on that. And because I'm making two at a time, I'll mark a little bit of a dot on, I don't know how I can get this to right there. So when I take these apart, those two dots will line up. I won't have it backwards. Only for my own reference, because we're making two at a time. Now, second crutch, I have these two marks. So what that means is no matter how I put this, I can't put it backwards. I'll get the original fit back when I go to glue it. I want to go to a flat part of the table with a Bob Martin sanding block, get each one trued up nice and flat, get rid of the joint as much as possible. Always using the flat part of the table, one of the parts that are really flat, so I don't build in any kind of a twist or a warp here. Now I'm hoping I have some material here that'll be of some value, because what happens is I have all these samples and I need this size. I have a lot of samples of stuff that may work perfectly here, I don't know. What I have is stuff that's laminated on both sides. That's going to be too thick, that's the problem. This material is going to be too thick. I may have to just laminate my own here. That's a possibility. I save all these little pieces. Actually, if I had a big enough piece, this would be fine. I've got Kevlar, I've got glass, e-glass, combo e-glass. But the one thing I don't have, I don't have any thin stuff, so it looks like I'm going to have to make my own. You know what I did the last time, and I should have made a bigger piece? I made the control panel for the model railroad out of carbon fiber. See, this is what I need, is this thickness. Obviously I've made a nose ring or something out of that piece. Well, so much for that. Part of a Miss Ashley fuselage that I was part of a Typhoon wing. But what I was really looking for, and I don't have it, so shame on me. I don't have it. Is some thin stuff. Well, if you ever want to see some nasty material, this is solid carbon fiber. Solid. But it hurts just thinking about it. It's probably what they make F-16s out of or something. Alright, we're going to have to laminate our own. It looks like some carbon elevators we made, carbon flaps. I was hoping, hope of hopes. But that's part of it. We got this half Kevlar, half dyed, half e-glass, all kinds of fancy stuff here. Except we don't have the exact, here's some orange stuff, wow. Some more carbon Kevlar, but we don't have what I want. So, when you're in doubt, you just make your own. Okay, when I want to make my own, and obviously that's always a possibility. First thing is to find a perfectly flat part of the table, get rid of every little CA joint that could possibly be on there. It's got to be perfectly flat, absolutely perfectly flat. That is so important. Then what I need is a sheet of Teflon. I got to get a piece of Teflon that I've got plenty of. But first, this must be perfectly flat and smooth. Now what we have is a roll of Teflon, and believe me, I don't want to waste this. Even though we get it from Dave Midgley, this is expensive stuff. This is not inexpensive, so I'll take a piece just big enough. And if anybody would like a piece big enough to do this kind of lamination, you can see how much I have, but what I don't have is an unlimited supply. I'd be glad to share, of course, but I can't send a 4x8 sheet out. Now this is perfectly smooth Teflon. Absolutely nothing will stick to this. It's sheet Teflon. So now I need to attach this to the table. But the first thing I need to make sure, when you do your own laminations like this, the table must be perfectly clean. And I mean, what happens if there's even one little dot on there, it messes up your job and it makes it sloppy. So let me get a, this is the part that it took me a long time to get right. If you remember back during the Miss Ashley program, we made the first carbon wings and fuselages. There was a lot of things that, in the middle of everything, I said, could have made that better. Now I see there's a little defect in the table there, so I don't want to work off of that. Now fortunately the tape does stick to this, but you do need to have the table perfectly clean. So important not to have a little dimple or something under there. And there's a lot of things you can do this way. Tank shims are only one of them. Okay, now we need enough room to do both of the tank shims, and that's perfect. Okay. I want to mark the side, and I've already marked it with a little dot, but I don't want to have it. That's the side that we're going to put the epoxy on. Now we just need to mix the epoxy. Now I want to measure out the carbon fiber first. I want to be all prepped up. Maybe we'll do this way. You certainly don't want to waste this. At $100 a yard, you'll learn real quick how not to waste it. That may be big enough right there. Even scraps of this, you notice I had to draw scraps. The reason I don't waste them, you can always make things like the fuel tank end caps out of them. Okay, so we got, there's $100 a yard for this stuff. And they never give you samples. Okay, now I'm going to use Epon epoxy. Epon 862 is a structural epoxy. It's what we use to make the props. It's a structural epoxy. Now, if you wanted to, of course, you could use 5-minute epoxy. The strength would be a little bit less, maybe 20% less, 50%, I don't know. It's not important. We're in such overkill mode here, it's ridiculous. But again, if I could buy some strength, and what I'm looking for is longevity, because this will totally be fuel proof. There'll never be a time that a drop of fuel will get through this Epon. And whenever I've done any work with epon, 10 years later, even the props, rock solid. It doesn't deteriorate in any way. If you didn't want to use carbon fiber, you could use 64th plywood. Now, but again, epon, here's the problem with epon. It's very toxic, and we're going to have to keep a fan going. You hear a fan in the background for the whole time that this is drying, and then we're going to have to put it in the oven and cure it for 2 hours. But the result is going to be that we have a bulletproof part, a part that's absolutely bulletproof. And in a project like this, where there's going to be 500-600 hours of work involved, notice, always stir up epon with a piece of steel, not wood. I use an old Allen wrench. Never stir it with a brush or with wood, because in the beginning, when the epicure hasn't mixed, it absorbs into the brush and you get a strange ratio. And the ratio, even though it isn't super critical like it is on a high temperature resin, where 1% will make a giant difference, this is still something you'd like to have it as close as possible. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is spread some of this out on a table. And notice it doesn't stick. That's the beautiful part. That's the whole reason for doing this. It doesn't stick. And again, when you're doing a project where there's so many 100 hours involved in it, you just can't compromise. You can't say, ah, well, you know, we'll use chewing gum there. We don't need to have glue. You never want to get this stuff on your hands, that's for sure. Or you don't want to breathe air in where you don't have some good ventilation. I got the door open, a fan going, a good fan, by the way. Now this will typically take 6 hours to dry, but while it's drying, we'll be working on some other projects. And this will really add an element of strength into the project that'll be, I think, will be just a real upgrade over just having a piece of plywood in there. Now this is one thing I learned the hard way too. It looks like that epoxy is all the way through there. I'm sure even you're thinking, oh yeah, that's all the way through. But you know what? Every once in a while, there'll be a dry, what I call a dry spot. So rather than take a chance, because again, we're having a giant investment in time and energy and actually in money too, I want to do both sides. And what that does, it forces it through one way and then forces it through the other way. Any of these loose threads, I don't want them in the mix if possible. Squeegee that right out. Now in the very beginning, when we did, actually it was the first Spitfire that we started doing molded parts. We did a molded cowl and gear legs and everything. But you know, it was so challenging back then, and I made so many mistakes that every time I go over those original Spitfire tapes, or I look at them when I'm making copies, I think, my God, how did I ever survive? But boy, was it a learning experience. And now 96, it's 11 years later, and we've made just literally tons of carbon fiber parts. Now this is going to be the trick. Let me get a paper towel. The side that I want the epoxy on, again, these are oversized. I want this to sink in real good. I want to get that as good of a bite as I possibly can. And what this will ensure is the tank should never sink down into the balsa wood. This should give it a good enough footprint. Like the motor mount pads, it should give us an incredible footprint to work off. Now that one's pretty much ready. And I want to make sure I've got a good imprint of the epoxy here. Yeah, back in the very beginning of doing molded parts, boy, it was challenging. I wrote that thing for Model Aviation about doing the gear legs. That's still, you can call up and get back copies of Model Aviation. Had a Cowl thing in Stunt News, I believe, and I think in Control Line World in the future we're going to have some good articles as we do some of these things. Now, most of all, at this point in time, I want to make sure I have a good footprint, let the epoxy all ooze out. You know, and here's another thing that I always think, you know, there are people, now I remember Jimmy Casale would tell me when he'd build a plane, and he had some, you know, very nice planes, of course. But he'd say, I want a plane to last one season. Next year I build another one. Well, and I understand that, you know, because you could make things lighter and you could drill holes in things and whatever. But when you build a plane with the idea that I want this plane to last forever, there's something about that. It's a part of stunt history then, to me. And I look around like at planes that have stood the test of time. And that's really what I want, is planes that stand. I don't know why I'm going to press these down. I'll get some heavy weights to put on top of that. And I guess that's going to dry it basically 6 hours. Actually, that piece of solid carbon fiber was nice and flat. And a gallon of dope will probably give it enough pressure. The epoxy's already starting to ooze out. 6 hours from now, I guess we can pull that apart and put it in the oven. Now, the next thing I want to do while that tank shim is drying, these are really precision drawings that Joe Adamusco has supplied. These are the templates that he's used to make the rib. So I want to make a pattern of a half rib. What I need is a pattern of a half rib. Now, I'm going to use that over and over. Number one, to trace out the fuselage sides, trace out the doublers, make modifications to the plans, make the final set of plans. See, everything we have laying on the table now is just concept drawings. We really need to make, at some point in time, a real drawing with the real dimensions right to within a 1/16 of an inch. But first thing I want to do is make, I don't know what to even call it. Like, I have it for every plane, but I need to put this on a piece of plywood. I'll attach it with some spray cement, and then I'll very carefully get that curve in there. Very carefully. Not just rough it in. This will be hopefully an exact copy, and this is a good way to do it. And this is really not a critical thing. This is really a piece that we've been making doublers out of. Now, I only need a half of this. I don't need the whole thing. I don't need a whole pattern. But what I do need to do is get this attached. I just need an accurate center, a real accurate center. And then I'll get the last little bit of this off over at the belt sander. Next, get it sanded perfectly smooth on one side. And we're going to need this to get nice accurate cuts on the fuselage, and it allows us always to work off a center line. When you have a double, the both sides, well, I don't know, but I always like working off a center line as choice one. Now, years ago, when these companies all went to different formulas, we really got stuck. We bought a bunch of stuff that melted foam. Well, we could use it up, number one, on sanding blocks, but I've marked each can, because what these companies all have done, they've changed the formula, probably because of the EPA or because of they're killing too many butterflies in Mexico or something, but some of it melts foam, some does, some doesn't. When you find a can, if you've already purchased it and you can't return it, you use it for this application. Make sanding blocks or make templates. Now, you could also use rubber cement if you wanted to save the paper part. But again, some of these I don't know what they call it, all-purpose. Some of them, when you just heat it the least little bit, they release. Some don't. So obviously, what would be a good idea is to take, if you needed them, take the paper that you're going to use to do this, and go make a couple of copies on a Xerox machine, so you have some extra ones. Now, the next thing is just to carefully bring that right up, and you see I've left the thickness of what I think will be the sheeting, but I'm going to go right up to the line now with a sanding block, so this is as accurate as I can make it. And once I have the rough amounts of material removed, the last little bit I can get, I can work my way right up to the paper. And this really does make it a lot more accurate. Now, of course, we got to allow for the sheeting, but I would always want the wing cutout to be just a little undersized anyway, and then I put the last little cut in as I'm fitting the wing to the fuselage with the take-apart system that we're going to use. And since this is going to be Joe's first take-apart plane, we want to keep this as simple as possible. Now, to get that final little edge in there and to get this perfect, so that when I just draw center line, I can flip it, and I've got an exact, or as exact as I can make it. Because one of the next things we're going to have to do, in fact maybe we'll do it today, we'll lay out the fuselage sides. It doesn't look like we're getting any break in the weather, so I'm trying to plan a couple of days ahead of time with how I want this project to evolve. And it's one of the things that Keith Ferguson was the one that told me this years ago. One of the biggest things he got off looking at these videos is the sequence of doing this first, this second, this third, this fourth. A sequence of construction where a lot of people, they open up, let's say, a kit box, and they don't know whether to assemble a rudder or the crutch or the belt crank. So sometimes even something this inconsequential, if you can pick it up off the DVDs, you're one step ahead of the game. More rainy days, even my birds are wet. You just can't imagine how this weather went south. It really went downhill. Went down, as we expected, it went downhill fast too. Now, as the day comes to an end here, I'm reminded constantly just how much fun all these Spitfire projects were. All three of the ones that are completed, they were a blast. Well, actually everything was a blast. I come up here in the evening with a cup of cappuccino, and I try to look around and I try to think, well, and this is really funny, here are the wings ready for some of the construction work. What we're going to try to do is frame up the fuselage, get that to a point where, well, where we have to make critical decisions, and then we want to get together with Joe, of course, and I'll try to get at least one of these wings ready for Joe to take home when he comes up here. There's a couple of days of work to, well, we got controls to make, tips, among other things, but the part I wanted to work on, well, we get some time tonight. And by the way, this is really cool. This is really something I thought was good. Karen records this show. Of course, she records it it's on twice a week, Dancing with the Stars. She's determined that she's going to get me to watch this show. Well, I tried to watch it one night, and I said, oh my God, I can't believe it's so fake. Well, she thinks model planes are fake. Maybe she's right too. But what we did, we had a marital agreement that on nights when Dancing with the Stars is on, I could go work on a plane. And because she has it on tape, she enjoys doing that. I certainly don't enjoy doing it. But what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to take out, well, Joe's got the wood here. I'm looking at the wood. maybe I'll lay out the plans for this tonight, and at least get started on cutting out the doublers, what I'll call kitting the doublers and the different parts. But this is the part I really always enjoy. As I come up here, I look at the wings, and then I look at what amounts to be the finished product, and I'm just amazed as time has gone by. My life, I mean, you can count your life, calculate out the years as they go by the models hanging in the Spitfire bedroom. But so if Karen decides she wants to watch these shows tonight, and I'm sure she will, what'll happen is we'll get the fuselage framed out. That'll be a lot of fun. Now that was just a couple of minutes of footage from the Spitfire, the original Spitfire tapes, and one of the things I love about having a video library, I didn't have a clear picture in my mind about how we did right behind the cowl where the vents were, the exhausts and stuff, and the air outlets, and I wanted to see how Joe had done some of the detailing on his blue Spitfire, because I wanted to make up another drawing. Joe kind of likes the razorback version, so I wanted to have both versions available for when we get together, just that he can look at the plans and make a little bit better decision. Have an old video library. A video library, you always enjoy going back to these old, and I enjoy them more and more. This is footage that's 11, 12 years old right now. Now tonight we got a real break. Karen's up there watching her Dancing with the Stars, and now that she's coming up on retirement, see, she'll be able to watch these things during the day, which will be a big help to me, because I like to have my life more scheduled than this, and I'm sure not gonna, I don't want to tell her this, but I'm not gonna spend my life watching Dancing with the Stars. We're gonna dance with them, with the Spitfire here.
But anyway, I used the time and I did a rough sketch for Joe Adamusco, and I would be the first one to criticize somebody if this happened to them. I ran out of Mylar. I never noticed that I'm getting down to the end of the roll, so I had to piece together little chunks of Mylar. I'll have to go up to Pearl Art Supply and get another roll. And needless to say, or tracing paper or something, because I'm still not done with the sketches. But I wanted to lay this out in the razorback version tonight. I basically have about 2 hours while Karen is up there enjoying her program. And God bless her that she loves this stuff, because, and she'll, it's funny, she calls me down, guess who got thrown off the show? Oh boy, goody goody. And I'm thinking, oh good, just what I need to know. What I need to know is how to build Spitfires. Anyway, maybe your wife or girlfriend or whatever is falling prey to the same addiction. I don't know, but we're addicted to Spitfires, and so this is going to give me a chance to lay out the razorback version before I cut and work on the woods, actually make templates for the sides. That's going to be the next thing, is I need to lay out all of the detail work that's going to go into this next part. The next part is to have a more accurate drawing, and then from that we can make the fuselage sides and the doublers, of course. Now what I did, I used this, what I hope is a very accurate template, laid out the now relatively accurate wing location. I need to put lines on here that'll ultimately become the fuselage sides, and that's the next step, because we haven't even trued the wood up yet, but I need to know what size, what shape, what thickness these fuselage sides are going to be. Now, because I need to lay this out, I need everything to reference off of what amounts to be a center line, and the fuselage side, I guess we have to go right off the plans, in fact. Because to lay out the fuselage side exactly where this wing root is going to go, and I guess, I'm pretty sure it's not really going to matter whether we put, these things are going to be exactly similar, whether we do turtle decks or if we do bubble canopy versions. It isn't going to be a real critical, like everything's going to change. We're probably going to be able to frame the whole fuselage side out and then just make one set of shells if we're going to make razorbacks, one set of shells for the bubble canopy version, and possibly make a mold for the griffin, the part of it that becomes the griffin blisters, which will be much bigger and wider than they were on previous planes. So, but it's all going to reference off the wing center line. There's no part of this that doesn't reference off where this wing center line is going to go. That's the part that's, at this point in time, I want to see how this is going to start to lay out. Now what I was looking at that old footage for was, this kind of lines up with this, and we want to allow, or I want to allow, for the air outlets here and not have interference with our exhaust that's going to come out maybe just parallel to the fuselage so you don't even see it. That's one consideration. But this center line, because this wing is lower in the fuselage, it's almost going to come out the bottom, and I don't know if we're going to have to move that up 1/16 of an inch or widen the bottom up some until I start laying this out dimensionally. And again, this center line, front to back, everything references off of that center line. There's no part of this that doesn't reference off of that center line one way or another. Now you would think this is relatively easy. Well, it really isn't that easy. And it isn't easy because we have the wing placed in a different position because of the dihedral. Now, what's different about this, and what's going to make this a different project, is because we have the dihedral, this is going to be a lot more scale. A real Spitfire with the lower wing, if you could make the wing thinner or smaller, it's easier to make this scale. As the wing gets bigger, it's more and more difficult. You have to do more and more fudging. I call it fudging. Now, this is the absolute beautiful wood that Joe supplied for this. It's 5-pound sea grain, and boy, it's nice. It just needs to be trued up. I'm guessing we're going to lose about 1/8 of an inch when we do the truing up. But right now, I just want to lay this out and get some idea, because I need to have a block. I need a height here of a block that would be reasonable, and it would be nice if we could make it a you know, something that we had in stock, like a 1-inch block. So let's lay it out just to see if a 1-inch block gives me what I need. Another thing that's a problem, it's a tentative problem and we don't know yet. Dave Midgley, because his job has changed and that business that he's involved in changed, we may not be able to get canopies, and we'll either have to carve them or we'll have to look for some other source of canopy. And I wish, you know, the mistake we made was years ago when he had access to the vacuum machine any time or place, and we were up there. We should have run 100 canopies. Unfortunately, we didn't do that. So now we're kind of in a different position here. So now, if I know that that's the place, if that gives me a 1-inch block, it means I can make this front part out of a 1-inch block. It means my back piece, I'm going to need a 2-inch block. Well, obviously we can laminate, because we're going to make shells, we're going to make just a scrap piece of wood for the plug. So that will become a mold. This will become a molded piece if we're doing a razorback. If we're doing the bubble canopy version, we'll just make one mold for the whole top piece. Now here's one of the options that we have, and not a real option is. This is the plug for the original Spitfire, which actually is not a bad fit. We could probably get away with using this. We could just extend it an inch. Let's see, we need to extend it an inch and a half. So if all else fails, we can put a piece on the front of this, and we want to make it wider. So what we'll do is laminate one piece on top of it, and laminate another piece on top of that. So you can make a thin fuselage wider and wider and wider. Just keep laminating pieces on. And I've explained that to Rich Walbridge. In fact, we're going to make some parts for Rich Walbridge from this. He's got some wood coming our way. But we can make a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. Well, we can't really make it thinner easily, but we can make them thicker without any problem at all. And so this now, if we do a razorback version, and again, we're still at the planning stage, we'd need to add about 1.5 inches to the front, but the angle is almost perfect. In fact, the angle is real close. It's closer than I thought it would be. So that's nice to know that we can use that if we want to. That means if we allow 1 inch here, now we can actually lay out where that fuselage side is going to go. Now here's the other consideration. We would like to have, if at all possible, because it makes building the model very easy, we would like to have the top edge of this. We know this is the center line of the engine in this spinner, and we know we're basically going to be a 1/2 inch off center. So we can fudge this way, or we can figure this out real easily. We can just measure. We know it's a 3-inch spinner. We know we're going to be a 1/2 inch off, so that would mean at 2 inches, if we could live with that as the height, and that looks like it'll work out fine, what it'll mean is we need a bigger top block. We need 1.5 inch top block, but what that buys us is we now, when we assemble a crutch onto the doublers, and I think this is the option we're gonna go with, this gives us a perfect spinner alignment and very easy to make the shell and the O-drive blend in. The only downside is we need a bigger plug for this block, and I need to look at the height of, actually this didn't work out bad. The height of our original part, we can move the wire down about 1/8 inch, and we'll have perfect parts if we do a razorback. Again, for a top piece, because all of these shells that we're going to mold, it won't matter if we use up, we have plenty of 12-pound wood back there. We had no shortage of that on the planet. And we can make the plug out of real, what I'll call lousy wood. And then we're going to hope that Richard Oliver can go over and take Riley Wooten out to dinner and get us enough wood. We're going to need 6 pieces to make the top shells and the bottom shells, or some scenario. Joe has some pieces there, but I don't know how good they are. But it's always a problem getting good wood. And in this case of doing 2 fuselages, if we decided what we wanted to do is do all carved blocks, there's no way on earth we get 6 absolutely beautiful 2-inch by 3-inch 4-pound blocks. that's almost a pipe dream. That's almost, I mean, you could wish for life. That's like wishing Dancing with the Stars was 4 hours a night, so we could build for 4 hours a night. But anyway, that ain't happening. Anyway, this looks like it's going to be one of the defining things now. So now I know I can lay out my top. I can lay this out. I can be right on center here. And now I just need to lay out the center line of where the wing is going to be. But before I can actually go to that part of it, the thing I need to do is true up the wood. The wood needs to be trued up. All wood needs to be trued up, and we need to get one really perfect edge to work off on each piece. I got 4 pieces to do. So now we get a little bit of a look of the evolution of some of the concept drawings that I've made with the razorback, and from the first one, the second one. Just some of the little concept things that we've tried to look at. Now, I can see one thing that I need to change on this drawing. It'll be very easy to change. I'll just change when I cut the fuse side. I need to make the nose maybe a 1/4 inch. I was thinking 3.5 would be enough. I'm going to extend that to 3 3/4 so that the bottom, there'll be a little more material on the bottom. I don't want to cut it that thin, because what's going to happen, instead of the fuse side coming there's going to be a curve, and it's going to look very unscale if I do that. I've got to somehow in my mind think about how I want to do that. But I think to start with, I can always trim it back. But to start with, I want to leave an extra 1/4 inch of material there. But this drawing, everyone gets a little bit better. Everyone gets a little more accurate. But the point is, you got to start somewhere. You have to start with concepts. You have to start with something in your mind, a mind's eye, how it's going to look. Now, we've got the control systems framed out. That was already done. I may have enough time tonight to do these. Well, there's no point rushing it. We're going to be coming on Dancing with the Spitfires soon. But next time we get a chance to have a little session, now that I have this drawing, the next thing I want to do, I want to try to lay out the fuselage sides. That'll be the next step on this. Dancing with fuselage sides. And I've absolutely got to remember to get down a pearl art supply and get some mylar so I can make some, well, if I need more drawings or if I want to modify them. This taping pieces of paper together is really like welfare stunt. Not happy with that. But it got us through a nice session. And normally we wouldn't be able to, if it wasn't for Dancing with Stars, we wouldn't have had this session at all. Now the next step on this is going to be, and this is going to be a little, well, a little bit on a tricky side, because I've already looked at these pieces of wood, and they are bowed. They're excellent wood, but they have a little bit of a bow in them. I'm guessing right now that's about 1/16 of an inch. Let's see how much we have this way. We're looking at about between a 1/16 and 3/32 of an inch. So what I want to do is I want to true these up. Now I want to make sure, and I've got 2 rulers that I know are very straight. These are all 48-inch rulers. So what I can try to do is see which way it's the best. It's going to take a lot. Well, it doesn't matter. All we need is one straight side out of this. We need one side that's going to be true. And so because we're going to need a 1/4 inch less wood on the fuse sides, we don't need the full 4 inches. We're going to need about 3 3/4. Even if I extend that bottom down, which I plan on doing on the next drawing, assuming I can not forget to go out and get some mylar. So the next step on this is going to be to get a brand new blade, brandy new, and try to trim this. Now, let me just show this up close. See what happens down here, we're perfectly straight, but see, as we get to the middle of the wood, you see how it's taking up a bow? Then we get down to this end, it's almost nothing. So I can get both ends trued up. Now what usually happens
once you true this up, once you true this edge, what typically happens, it springs a little bit. So a lot of times you have to true one edge, turn it over and true the other edge, and at some point in time it gets frustrating. But right now that'll be a good enough, getting it that it's at least as straight as the ruler. Then we can take it over to our big sanding strip, do the last little bit over by the sanding strip. Now of course, depending on how bad the wood is, we could, if we think it's going to spring even more, again, I don't want to turn it into 3-inch wood either. I'd rather cut 2 or 3 times. Trick is try to hold a blade 90 degrees. For me, it's easier to hold a razor blade. I don't want it to follow the grain of the wood. But I really do want to start off with having some nice straight. And you can see how much of a piece we've taken off. I'm always using a ruler as my reference here to see how much. I don't want to take too much off, and I don't want to see it spring the other way either, if possible. Now this gets difficult. If you hold your hands down on the end, you'll make a banana. If you hold them somewhere about 2/3 of the way, you got a much better chance. And just let the wood find its own. Well, the only place it's happy here. Now we got some rough wood, some 320 and some 220. Now once I get that done, I only need at this point in time to true up one side. Let me show that right now. Now we're pretty true for the whole length. Now what I want to do with all 4 of the fuselage sides, all 4 of them, I want to put one good edge on, and I'll mark it with an ink marker or whatever, that I have that being the good edge. That's the edge that's going to go up on the motor mounts. That's going to be the edge that's going to be what I guess real aviation people would call the datum line. That's our reference point for lining up the engine, and then from that we'll draw the center line for the wing, and the top edge will be where we mount the stab. So it's all very important to keep it right on that line. Now as can happen, every one of these pieces of wood is just a little bit different. And here's the point, when you decide which way you're going to cut them, you can take the bottom and flatten it, or the top. I always try to take the same, and it doesn't really matter. If the wood doesn't spring and it stays with that edge, it's fine. But it's better to take, in this case we've taken the high point out. So what I want to do is and because these are very similar, I want to take the high point out on both sides. And I can very easily see that these pieces of wood were all cut from the same piece of wood, because they have a knot in them pretty much at the same place on each piece. So what it'll allow me to do when I assemble fuselages, I can make relatively matched sides. And matched sides are always a good idea. Now it's always hard to hold a ruler at 90 degrees, but that's why we have that. See, right here is where it's the thickest. So I'm taking what amounts to be the high point off. Now see, right here it caught a bad spot in the wood. Let's go back a little bit. Oh boy, that's a knot in the wood or something there. Something that wasn't real friendly. Again, the strip that we've taken off is the thickest right in the middle. So we always want to look and see if we're close. There's no point sanding this if we're not close. Okay, we're close. Now it's a question of just give it a couple of swipes. Don't want to hold it out at the end. Don't want to hold it in the middle. Kind of about 2/3 of the way. If you have a helper and you can get more hands on it, that's always better. But this certainly works well enough. Now let's see if we've got a nice true edge. And we do now. So now the trick is to mark that edge. And these now are going to be match sets. As we go to the rest of the cutting and shaping and center lining,
We're working off of this top edge. This is our datum line, and we've got match sets. And once I have all 4 of them set, that I have 4 identical edges, then I can move on to measuring out and working off of that line, measuring out the center line for the wing. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to make a template for this cowl angle. Because what I want to do is we're going to have a bigger spinner, and I want to move that cowl angle up. I'd like to have it come right through the needle valve, but you never know until you actually finish the plane if that's the way it's going to work out. But it would making the cowl, because the fuselage is going to be wider, there'll be more of a curve here. It'll just make the fuselage itself easier. So I'm going to make up a template that transposes this angle. Now I know this is 90 degrees here, so all I have to do is get a piece of cardboard or paper or whatever and make a mirror image of that angle. And once I have that angle, now I know basically all the stuff in this nose, this worked out real well. This was one of the things I really thought was an upgrade this year. I know I'm going to have the vents pretty much in the same place. I don't want to go monkeying with that. But I'm going to have a bigger spinner. Fuselage is going to be wider. More room to move the tank around. I want to allow a little bit extra when we actually go and put the tank shim in. And I know this system, which we've had on all the Spitfires, this system of cooling with an outlet over here, perfect. And possibly would get these pipes to come out just even with the fuselage, or just maybe half of that amount. And that keeps the plane, for all purposes, oil free. And that's another nice little feature of this whole system. So what we learned about from this nose section, we know we're going to want to put it on to the next one. And that's the whole part of these designs evolving. And that's why if you go back to the early ones, yeah, there's some things you got to work out. And then the second one a little bit better, third. Well, this is the 4th Spitfire, and it'll be the second 90 plane. So you hope we're going to have a lot of this stuff worked out. Let's hope anyway. Now let's hope we don't forget to get Mylar so I can make some drawings here without having to use up scraps of paper. Pretty embarrassing. Now in an all perfect world we would have that needle valve right on the cowl brake, but there's no guarantee of course that that's going to happen, because even if you move the motor back and forth incrementally or make the nose ring a little longer, I mean that position moves because you're sliding up and down an angle. The only person I ever know that got it right, Les got it right a few times, but because what you want to have in an all perfect world is you take the cowl off and you can take the engine out without taking a needle valve out. Not sure that's a real big deal breaker, but it's free lunch if you can get that position just right on the cowl brake. I want to test the roll, so let's get it real close, but no cigar. And on the Spitfire, it's not really close. We just have a big hole. So 6 of one, half a dozen of another. And the good news is it's not it's not a deal breaker. It's just something, if we can get that angle, it'll be nice. And if we miss it, we'll be taking a needle valve out every time we work on the engine of the plane. Now in today's email, this is from Rich Walbridge. Now Rich is just embarking on a Spitfire project that I'm sure is going to be a top level ship. He's already doing the right thing, gathering pictures, gathering data, gathering inspiration. Look at that nose section. Boy, that's hard not to like. I've said that a million times. Hard not to like those 5-bladed props. And that scoop. Now that's what this is the one that's on the video that Joe modeled. This color blue. And there's several variations of it. Look at the detail on those landing gear. And we hope to see some progress reports on Rich Walbridge's. Well, look at this. I just lost the computer screen. Rich, I hope you're copying Joe Adamusco on all these. This looks like the one Joe modeled, the Seafire, the last one. Look at the tail hook. Now look in this photo, see how unusual these exhausts are. This is an early mark with the 3 exhausts. That's pretty neat. And we've always thought about putting a little mirror on And then of course when you fly it, just unplug it somehow. When we first started doing the Spitfires, I remember thinking, rear view mirror, oh, is that going to be cool? And the first time somebody launches the plane and catches it on their nose or something, that'll be the end of that. Anyway, Rich, what you need to do is start a little folder with copies of these pictures if you've got. Now obviously you're an architect, so you can copy these pictures. Make some real nice copies. I'm sure you're going to be inspired as time goes by. You're going to fall in love. It's easy to fall in love with Spitfires, believe me. Believe me, if there's one thing I've learned, it is so easy to fall in love with Spitfires. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Anyway, thanks for those pictures. We're going to be sending you some in a few minutes too. Oh, I took out Dave Downey's drawing, which is totally scale. Is almost exact scale anyway. And I wanted to just do a little comparison of this. Well, I have the, this is an early mark. Doesn't have the ogive is different. Spinner shape is more blunt. Landing gear in a different position. He's using the real wing, the one that we were using, of course. But I was just doing some email from Rich Walbridge, and I realized something that maybe I left out of here, and maybe I just need to back up a little bit tonight. I realized I never included in on this the video of Joe showing all of the tips for building a wing, and I thought that might be something that other people that are trying to build along with us, fly along with us, or whatever you want to, however you want to call us, might be interested in. And I'll add it to this. These are over-length videos anyway, and it's one of the interesting things that would kind of jive and dovetail into this project. But as I'm sitting here tonight and I'm looking at this, I'm real happy with the way this final drawing. I just got to get me some Mylar. I've got to extend this bottom down about 1/4 inch. See, on Dave's drawing, he's got it coming out where it's flat, but this to me is, I'm not sure. I don't know what that's going to look like, or if it's going to be strong enough. We're not going to have a lot supporting the wing, but again, I don't know, because this is a take-apart plane, of course. But this is, and you may enjoy this if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a long time. This is video from building Joe's tips for building the original, and I mean the original Spitfire wing. This is back in 1995 at Joe's old house. I'm sure you'll enjoy this. Very nostalgic. The Adamusco mansion. Yeah, I'm hip. Nicely landscaped too.
Yeah, I'm the gardener.
You're the gardener and the Spitfire mechanic, and
Spitfire mechanic, and this is the side entrance.
yeah, cool.
You know, that's where all my UPS stuff gets dumped right up on it.
Look at all these exotic plants. Holy yeah.
Yeah, this is stuff that Sue planted, and
Yeah. So each one takes care of your own like gardening
Well,
and stuff,
yeah.
or do they do it for you like Harmon
no,
Cove did?
this is my deal.
I'll
See
tell
that
you.
window right there? That is my workshop. That's where we're gonna go, right up in there.
They're right there now.
That's it.
That's where they come from.
We're going in there right now.
There's a little guard dog eating the lounge chair over
My snow blower, lawn
there. That
mower.
is the U2, huh?
That's the U2. Well, I'll take it down. You gotta
Take it down. Take it out in the driveway. Look at there's a little stunt machine up there.
Yeah.
Halfway.
You wanna
Take
see
it out in the driveway, man. We're on tour here.
You want
It's either this or
You
pizza.
can have it.
You
Sure.
sure?
No,
Oh,
because-
God, give that to my grandson. Why you cheapo? Don't you dare take that,
You
Jimmy.
can fly it any better than I can.
My grandson will eat that alive. This is the real U2?
That's your birthday present, Jim.
This is the real U2.
Thank you.
This is the one that was in the magazine and everything?
We'll make it fly.
Yeah, it's a little, a little dusty. It's only 20, however, 73 to 95. If you get that, it flies. 049, I had a 449 diesel, I had a TDDD, whatever. Have some fun.
Nice carving job on this. I remember this from the
Yeah.
first day you came out to Harrisburg. I remember you had this.
And it still flies, just that it's a keepsake, more or less. But
All that carving, the scoops and all that
put
stuff.
put that little stunt machine down there and let Wendy get some.
Yeah, let's see that little half A. My grandson's gonna
man,
like
check
that.
little sexy racing
He ain't
wheel
getting
there.
it.
That's what you think.
That is cute. That stunt machine is
I'm gonna
awesome.
get a VA 049 for it. We'll get it to fly. We'll share it next year at the
Yeah,
Nats.
okay, no problem. Hey,
There's no builder of the model rule in half A at the Nats. I'll
there
get it
isn't.
flying.
Now,
We'll
what I
play
did,
with it.
I had a problem in a turn with that thing where it would do one of these on it. And I thought
Look at
cutting the
this
flaps
cockpit
down. You
detail,
may want to
nice.
put a little piece of flap back on there or something. And you want to start this thing out with a little bit of nose weight too, because it's real twitchy. And I flew it on 08 strandeds. But hey, have some fun with it. You may
That's
want to
gorgeous.
cut it up or do something different to it.
That's too pretty to leave sitting on the wall.
But, no, well, you use it. That's the whole idea.
The Japanese guys at the Nats had a little Cobra, like the same size, a half-A Cobra.
Half a
Beautiful.
Cobra.
Oh, it was sweet. Yeah, it really was
Yeah,
nice.
but I went the whole thing. Wheel pants, some little,
Oh, yeah.
little racing wheels in there.
I'm hip. Little pepperoni
This had
pizzas
dry
in
gear
there.
on it when you flew it, didn't it? Or?
Yeah, it had. It did have, not trike gear, like a nose gear. Hinge line tape, you know, when you do the wrong kind of tape. And you
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Oh, no, we did that at the Nats to Strega. Makes a good repair video.
But it still flies pretty good. It's only like one maneuver that it gets a little funny in, but it's,
I think you could put a 60 right in there, Joe.
yeah, it would take. It would
Quit
turn it.
fooling around, man.
But a max 35.
Nice 13.6 on there. Pull that right through.
Definitely an epoxy nose.
Oh, it's been battered and banged and vibrated on. It had about 8 different. But you get it going. I try to take the hinge lines on. I try to do all kind of heights, but I know you can figure it out.
Well, next year, make a little Cardinal for me, Joe. A little Spitfire. Hey.
But stick it in your truck and have some fun.
Oh,
And,
like I said,
that where maybe once somebody had one and they didn't want to really modify it much, and it.
Yeah, in the back there's Spitfires. New Strega paint job. Look at all this stuff in here. Oh my God. Eat your heart out, Banjock.
next page is the pretty rare bear picture I was
There it
talking
is.
about.
Yeah, yeah, they got the Rare Bear repainted and everything. Oh my God.
That's a racing spit.
Must be nice to owe the government $1
There
million.
you go.
Yeah.
There's the new rare
New
bear.
Rare Bear.
There's the
There's
That's what I want. I want that. Oh, that looks nice. That little
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Roundels on the wing,
Oh,
the yellow
yes.
leading edge.
Yellow. All that. That's it. That's.
Spitfires.
Come on in. Let's. And this is that thin crust.
Thin
like
crust,
pepperoni.
get one of each. One plain, one pepperoni. I'll finish whatever you sissies don't finish. Real men finish all the pie.
Jim, you want to grab my videos?
Will do.
Yeah, you got your tapes,
Hey,
Joe?
look, here's a.
Oh, look at this
Trying
guy.
to teach my nephews.
Look at this. Everywhere you go, there's Taffender fuel and watt blowers and everything.
386.
There's where I keep my compressor, and I got it piped
Yeah,
in
cool.
upstairs. Can you use some steel wool, Wendy, or Jim?
No, no.
You need some? You need
Not
some?
right now, thanks.
Take 'em.
Alcohol. Try getting us some more. Oh my God, look at this. Midgley, eat your heart out. He's got his rack right in the living room.
You want your unit up, or?
Look at this.
Okay.
Holy
Some
mackerel.
of that heat.
My wife doesn't want to hear about hanging planes in the living room. She doesn't think that's funny
Well,
at all.
this isn't the living room. This is the
Oh.
this is the area I want to turn into a workshop, but I'm limited. I gotta kind of keep it the way it is.
And what's that on the bottom?
Let me what? That's so
Only
you
at Pro
talk
Stunt
about
Video do you get
technology.
this. You don't see this
Yeah, so I
in
can
magazines.
do large pieces.
Well, what are those
Name
pies,
is
Joe?
Adams, A-D-A-M-S, and I want one plain and one pepperoni. Okay, thanks.
Ah, Chinese.
Yeah, it's pretty cool in there too.
Hey, look at this. Turn that air on. Woo! I love it. Hey, you're into the Oriental furniture scene?
Yeah, that's my wife.
Watch, oh, check this out.
You ever see Guardian of the Doll Hunt?
Only on Pro Stunt Videos do you get to see the way people live. Poverty's a bitch, isn't it?
That displayed out the front door.
Beautiful house. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the mother of pearl kind
But this
Yeah.
is the main thing. The world's first look at da-da-da-da Spitfires.
Hey,
Oh my
Gina's
God,
watching
look
us.
at this.
Hey, Wendy, Gina is watching over this project.
This is Gina, by the way. Anybody doesn't know, let's get Gina on the Spitfire video. Gina, hello. Woo! Oh, I can't even go near her. Anyway, Spitfires. Oh my, I have the same picture in my room.
Look at
Well,
this.
my workshop is like a closet compared to what you guys work in.
Are you kidding? I work in my living room on a table. I have no workroom.
This is nice. What are these?
That's my souvenir airplanes. This is my 1990 Nance airplane.
Wow.
And that's what I like to do.
I
If
remember,
you're going
yeah.
to keep them, you keep parts of them. And then this is,
I thought you were going into a vasectomy clinic or something. Look at this. Holy crap.
But this is one of my turkey airplanes, but it had an elliptical wing, and that's what got me started.
Yeah. I hear you.
So that's all right. I hope I don't collect anymore. It's like
This, by the way, is a great idea. Now, see, Joe has his compressor and switch up here, but the compressor is actually in a cellar, so you don't hear all that noise and get headaches and stuff. Look at these Spitfire plans.
yeah.
You don't think these are going to be the Spitfires from hell?
See,
Forget
you were
about
talking
it.
about a nice fillet in here, and that's.
Oh,
When
yeah.
we get into talking strategies on flaps and that,
Yeah.
that's,
You notice what a low aspect ratio to tail is on a Spitfire? That's something we got to take into
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah.
Low aspect.
they'll be. Well, let me lay that out for you.
Oh,
We got time.
what do you think, Jim?
Okay, now here's where I keep my TV. I can't watch any tapes on this, but I have a little TV, a little couple things. Not much. Razor blades and sandpaper, and that's. Really
Yeah, there's not much to this. It's workmanship,
And then what I
craftsmanship.
do is I put
Ambroid.
my exhaust fan in this window.
You can spray it. Look,
Yeah.
one Spitfire wing is already
yeah,
sheeted.
Yeah, that's what.
That's a
Oh,
spit wing?
Yeah, this is the wing.
hope you're taking plenty of still photos of this.
Yeah, I did. I took some. I'll show you. 8 ounces.
8? It's too heavy. You better give it to me right
And
now. Oh man, Spitfire.
so you guys can scope these things out. Now some of these fits in these joints. All that's going to be. This is just. I'll splice in a piece and. But I try to follow all the pro stunt techniques on
Oh,
that.
you better. Yeah, that's the way to success in life.
Is that Ambroid in the glue gun? You
Yeah.
Notice the
Ambroid,
rod's
ambroid.
still in the wing.
No, I use some CA on this.
The Ambroid's a lot lighter than CA, that's for sure.
But it makes it, the Ambroid's easy to, I like it, plus it's like part of being the old breed stuff,
Yeah, that's right.
You see, this is set up, I got the,
Oh.
the hard, it's nothing that is epoxied in, but, this should just give you an idea how the
Yeah,
stuff will be.
yeah.
So look, why don't you guys look these things over, make yourself comfortable. If you wanna,
Back the van up, I'll
I
show you how to make yourself.
got
Put these
Diet
in there.
Coke and that little refrigerator, help yourself if you want.
You're gonna get pie, okay?
I'm gonna go get the pies and I'll be back. It's
Awesome.
15 minutes. And this is like at the right time. So
This is
I'll
the
be right back.
Spitfire wing on the
I can't
jigs.
go too far with you parked.
That's okay.
If you just move it over into the next lane. All right, I'll be right back, man.
Spitfires.
Yeah,
Weight,
check it out.
8
Things that I want you to, like, how
Yeah, I
how
wanna
much a
check it out.
radius do we want on this? And I'll get all kind of other stuff to show you. but-
Plenty of radius, you never have too much radius. Now notice, I'll just show them this before anybody. The way he got the bend in this by taking a lot, let's get this up on a macro lens. A lot of little saw cuts in there.
And then this all gets relieved. If you look inside the wing, you can see where I cut, I cut out all this extra material. So there's no extra weight in this thing.
Yeah, 8 ounces is a good weight. Good, it's got the bell crank in it too.
And that's with, just an average kind of deal. The other one should be the same or lighter. Yeah, be right back.
Now, while Joe's gone for the pie, we're gonna shoplift all his 60s.
Try to get some of these little ideas, and again, you can always use ideas. This, by the way, is an excellent idea. I used to have one of these to hold the tape, so you don't need 2 hands to pick the tape up. An excellent idea. Of course, somebody borrowed it, never gave it back. We still haven't found the radial arm saw. Somebody borrowed that, didn't give it back. I don't know about this saving the tail stuff. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway. Spitfires. Unbelievable. Keep in mind, there's 13 or 12 or 13 different kinds of Spitfires. Notice this one has a bubble canopy, but they all have things in common. The wingtip, the elliptical wing, the large fillets, which we're going to try to incorporate, a low aspect tail, which seems to work well in stunt. No fillets in the back. There'll be plenty of room for the raised rudder linkage. Plenty of just the exhaust. That's just one of the must-dos. Tail wheel detail. Anyway, we're really looking forward to this project. This will probably be one of our best building seasons of all time. Uh-oh, can't have that. These are official Joe Adamusco elliptical pies.
Yeah, you sure you don't need a glass?
Nah,
And
just
I'll get some paper towels for napkins.
yum.
An old lab.
And this is a nice little tip I just put on this video here. Joe has the clamp that hold the rods from going up and down with a set screw, so this can come apart like a clamshell, holding the rods in place. Also, this is all on a ring construction video. Same thing with the wood blocks. Good way to hold the rods, and that is rock solid. It's on, what is this, 1/2-inch glass, Joe?
3/8, I think.
3/8 glass,
3/8.
which is on hardwood, which is on a door.
And I shimmed the center. You know, you shim the glass so
Yep.
it's perfectly
Oh, yeah.
level.
Yep.
And that's where your starting point. Now, let me show you the mother of all straight edges. And to me, this is one of the most important tools that I use for doing all kinds of things. You know, cutting your sheeting straight.
Yeah.
This is a 48-inch Starrett ruler, okay? And when I chew up that glass, I'll put this straight edge down, and you can see that this black is not level. And I'll use that as my
Yep.
edge to.
I think Scott has the same thing, the big heavy duty
And
straight
another thing,
edge.
when you go to cut sheeting, this.
The weight holds it in place.
Yeah, the
even.
way, like you know, here's a piece of sheeting right there. The weight holds it in place like so. What I like to use is a single edge razor. The weight of this holds it down. You got enough of a flat surface for this 1/4-inch thickness. You could take that razor.
It holds it at a
and
90
hold-
degree nice.
You just keep it right against the side. And believe me, you know, you can get a funny piece of wood, but I mean, that gives you a dynamite straight line, and you can get good glue joints, and your things are straight.
Now, who makes that ruler? Is that a commercial?
It's a Starrett company, the same company that makes micrometers, measuring instruments.
Okay, it's a machinist tool.
Yes, but it's the right size. Another for doing smaller sheeting work. This is a blade off a woodworking machine, a joiner, but it's a big mama. It's like a 22-inch joiner blade. And I dulled this down so you wouldn't cut yourself. But again, it's a nice straight edge, and for
Yeah,
like smaller
perfectly
pieces of
straight,
sheeting.
yeah.
So a combination of these two, these are the ones that I use to, you know, the other things like plastic rulers or sheet metal rulers.
Aluminum rulers.
It's not the
Plywood
same,
rulers.
it doesn't work.
No, that's for sure.
Okay, now, as you can see by the way the wing is framed out here, that one of the first steps you got to do is to, and I guess I explained this to some extent in the little write-ups that I did for the circle burners and so forth. It was stuff.
And by the way, that's excellent. Those things I've been passing them out. They're excellent.
But just to prove to you that I had trouble counting, like number of loops and laps and all those.
We have
So
that
when I
documented.
was counting the ribs for this, I don't know, I calculated to make like an 84-inch wingspan wing or something, and I made too damn many. But just to show you, look at all these R1 ribs left. So hey Jim, you want to build a?
He's got half of a Spitfire here extra.
All right. So what I did was I took a blanket balsa and I tried to pick the good 1/4 grain wood best I could, lightweight 6-pound wood, and I took a photocopy, Xerox copy of the rib outline, and I used the artist spray trim adhesive, which is
It's like 3M cement.
yeah, except it's
Spray mount.
what they spray mount. You can
Yep.
peel it off. It doesn't stick forever, but it stays on long enough. Just to show you,
That you can get the cuts.
yeah, how it works. It does peel right off.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't ruin the wood, doesn't leave a lot of extra heavy adhesive on there. So then what happens is after you accurately laid out rib blanks or plan forms, and you take your razor. I always try to just cut so that I'm within like a 32nd of my pencil line on a drawing. And then I like to sand.
Block sand.
Use
the
a
last
block,
little
just
bit.
a block sand to get it to dimension. And then what I do, I lay out, I know where my rod holes are going to be. I'll take that piece of 3/8 tubing, and you got to make sure, at least on this, when you're not gang drilling, a stack of ribs at one time, you got to make sure that you do a very accurate layout, so I take a circle guide. Maybe I could just show you a second. Hang on.
You make up a template so all the ribs are, the holes are in alignment?
Well, yes and no, but I'll show you what I don't make one up. What I use for a template. That's a circle guide.
I did. I made up a plywood template
With the 2 holes in
with the
it.
2 holes, and then I reference off the trailing edge and just go forward.
Here's my tubing with the sharpened, wrong edge, sharpened edge, with a couple little curve cuts in either side. Just
Right,
to, just to
couple of
relieve.
teeth, yeah.
And I put a piece of friction tape on there just so it gives you something to spin your fingers with. So what I would do is, I know this is going to be 3/8, okay? So what I'll do is I'll just line the 3/8 hole up in this
Use the
circle
hash
guide
marks.
right on the bomb site, you know. But this is why it's important to have accurate, laid out.
Right. You're getting the center line
Mhm.
and referencing
And then
right
you
off the
then
center
using this, the guide is you won't stray too far off center, and then you get her going and you punch it through. Then you get your. It takes time to do this, but we have a lot of time because that's what stunt means: time and patience, and that's how you get something that's worthwhile.
line. You bet.
Okay. So here's the rib templates that I removed from these ribs and the ribs on the other wing.
And obviously you can use them over and over again.
You can,
Or
sure.
some amount of times.
Yeah,
over.
you could, because you're not. If you don't destroy them, you could glue them back down. You save yourself a lot of this cutout work. But then after you get your holes cut, then you'll cut your openings. The wood that you don't need, you're going to have to remove eventually. You only need that web to support the rib on the rod. Okay. Then the last operation I do, which since I didn't use these ribs, I didn't cut them out, but I could show you how we would do that. Again, you want to use a straight edge. In this case, I like to use this shorter unit here. And get it right on the line. It's important to try to have a 90-degree angle. Make a couple of cuts through that away.
Now, another thing that might be worth mentioning, the reason, at least I didn't, even consider using, you know, like in the old days on an Nobler, they'd use 1/4-inch leading edges, is you can't get enough of a radius in the front. You start
That's
eating
right.
into where the sheeting is.
That's the
paper thin.
reason I used 1/2 inch.
Yeah, and this kind of a deal, you really want to have some meat up there, so you can get a decent leading edge radius.
Okay, now the way this wing was set up, the root rib, which is a Pattern Master R1.
Yeah, let's mention that. What we did here, and let Joe confirm it.
Okay.
We wanted this plane to be a pattern master. We know there's hundreds of pattern masters have been built, and we know they fly well right up to 80 ounces. You can put a nice finish on them and a decent nose construction. They have good longevity. And we wanted this to be a pattern master, but with an elliptical wing. So we did a lot of, at least Joe did, a lot of calculation, figuring out the square inch area and all the other numbers that mean it won't be that much different than a PM when it's flying. And I guess the living proof is the Stuntress. That kind of flies real well, just the way it is. So again, it's not like we're inventing something here that has never been done before. We want to stay in the boundaries of what a pattern master is, the thick wing, 25% airfoil, and probably you know, enough of a wing that it'll carry to finish.
Okay, so the way the wing is laid out, it has the PM root rib. It's got 4 R1 ribs. I have 2 centered in here pretty close just to give me a little more stiffness right in the center of the wing. So there's 2 R1s here and then 2 more R1s, so that's 4. Then the rib takes on a foreshortened contour because your elliptical or the curved shape actually begins at the R2 rib position.
Yeah, the part that goes through the body doesn't have a curve
Right.
to it.
So in essence, it's straight for about 6.5 inches on each side of the center line of the wing. And then at R2, it cuts in a little bit, R3 slightly, R4, R5. And this is a fairly close curvature to the actual Spitfire curvature of the wing. Some modification to get, you know, enough room for lead out clearances so it look like it's going to work here. And then there's a certain amount of drop or curve till you get to the R6 rib. Then you have a pretty drastic curve getting out here towards the tip, R7, R8, and R9. And then once you have all your ribs cut, notched, the holes for the rods cut, and you verify that your trailing edges are the right thickness. In this case, I took a piece of 1/4 inch square and tapered it to exactly 1/8 of an inch on center line. And that 1/4 inch will match up exactly with the 1/4 inch dimension on the back of the rib. This is very important in alignment. So then you have all your ribs laid out, and then you start to push R9, R8, R7, R6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 on this half the wing panel. You kind of spread them out. And then you add the corresponding R1, R1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to the opposite end of the wing panel. Of course, being careful that you don't, you know, drop the blocks off the edge of the building surface and so forth. And then once you get it lined up, and you got a jockey around. I use a little, I guess you call that a right angle or a tri-square, but out of a block of wood that I sanded, and that's what I would use to make sure that my rib is positioned. Let's see, maybe this would be a better. I kind of put it down right on a flat surface and line it up with the edge of the drawing, and that's for my rib vertical position. So I know it's there, and I would shift these ribs around till they matched exactly the plan form that was drawn for the wing. Okay, so the ribs are straight vertically and straight horizontally, and then in the meantime, once I get that really close, I use CA to tack glue down the wood rod jig block support on either end, and then the center block, that's tack glued onto the glass. And you can see I had to cut away a little bit of my paper plan form just to make sure that I was getting the glass surface in there, but that's what I would use to align the ribs. And actually, when this top of the wing gets planked and turned over, I'll take the plan form away because you don't need it anymore. Okay, then the next step in the process would be, once you have your ribs aligned, then you want to make sure that your trailing edge goes on first. Okay, because that's what you want to try to keep straight. This still needs a little adjustment here and there, which when I go to do the actual sheeting, you can see there's nothing holding anything here, but that's the basic frame. That's the plan form, and that's the volume that this airfoil, which is this wing, is going to contain. Then after this is, and I use CA to, like you can almost use that as welding material, you know, weld that in
Spot
position,
welded on,
get
yeah.
it stuck down,
Tack welded, yeah.
tag welded in. Then I will do the leading edge. And where the butt joint is, like I have a butt joint for the trailing edge because that doesn't bother me too much. My sheeting is going to be covered at 45 degrees at the joint. That'll add a lot of strength. But instead of using a butt joint for the 1/2 inch square leading edge, I used the 45-degree angle so that I had more surface, bite, and every little bit of strength helps. And after you have that in, then you got to go through and verify, okay, everything, especially your tip rib. You want to make sure that that is perfectly vertical because you're going to be working with a block on the end of this. Ooh, I left out one step. After the trailing edge, you got to put these tip sweeps in. This is what makes an elliptical wing kind of unique, I guess you can say, is this tapered, curved trailing edge surface. And actually, let me show you. I got a jig block. I'll show you how I made that.
Beautiful workmanship.
Okay, this outline represents the plan form shape of the tip sweep. And I took a piece of 1/4 inch flat stock, laid it on here, and I knew that the thing that was going to be different here is that I was going to drop from a 1/4 inch trailing edge of my R7 rib to 3/16 for R8 and then 1/8 of an inch for R9. So that meant that this tip sweep block is not just tapered fore and aft, but it's tapered with the length of the wing. So I had to, just like you do if you're making a flap or something, I put these tapers on here where actually each tip sweep took 4 different setups or repositioning of this on the jig so I could sand it to get these tapers correct, because I don't want to have any kind of weird
Yeah, some funny
curves.
pollywog
No,
with his
nothing. Everything. I want this to blend out, so when you're gonna look at these wings on the end, they're gonna be a couple of perfect points. So you got it took some time to work to get the tip sweep shaped properly, okay? And I don't know that it makes much difference whether you use quarter grain or A or B grain, as long as
It can't hurt to be C grain, that's
no,
for sure.
but, and I use like some of each, as you can see here, but I added a gusset just to stiffen this up a little bit to make sure it's held in position. And if you look through this away, and I did have little measuring, well, a ruler. A ruler's a measuring device, right?
Last I heard.
So you would want to measure, you know,
Front to back, front to back.
the pointed leading edge here should be the
Right.
same dimensions as the center line on here.
Right
That's-
down the center line of everything,
So
right.
that's how you got to have it straight there. So that takes a little bit of work, but then I discovered after making the first wing and sheeting it that, you know, as I started getting the sheeting process, that this extra piece of material in the tip sweep really didn't perform any function. And there was no way that I was going to actually be able to get the wood to adhere or glue to that surface and still get a smooth contour. So this seemed to be the right place. That's the cutout. I marked my working drawing here so that on a finished drawing I'll correct that. Okay?
On the magazine plans, you don't
All right,
wanna
whatever they're going to be for somebody that wants to
have
build one,
$100 bill.
that's fine.
I'm
Okay.
sure Midgley's gonna build one, that's for sure.
So then after you get the tip sweeps in position and you measure 10 times before you tack them in, then you do the leading edge, and then I put the spars in. I put the bottom spar in first. And this is where making very accurate cuts with your, you know, your notches on your
Right.
on your rib blanks. And if everything's lined up, and believe me, it lined up good on this, you
It
just kind of
drops right
feed
in.
plug it
Yep.
right in, and I make sure I take whatever the spar material is going to be, 1/4 inch, and as I cut the openings in the rib, I trowel fit each one. Yeah, it takes a lot
It's
of
a
time.
press fit, but not a slop fit.
That's right.
And not
So
a-
when it goes
breaks
in,
when
you
put it in.
you look at it from the front, you see that, okay, that's your setup.
Yeah, because this wing has quite a bow as it comes out to the tip in every dimension. Exotic
Okay,
looking.
so that's, then after you get all that locked in, you know, you're ready to put sheeting on. And
And here's another thing, I don't want to leave this out because
Yeah,
we're going to do
okay,
the
yeah.
gear blocks over at my shop. He doubled up, and it looks to me like you've got the
Cross
grain
grain.
I
going.
got 1/4 grain gun.
So this in effect is balsa. Boy, that really is solid. And we're going to make our custom gear blocks. Of course, we're going to do it down by my shop.
Hey, Jimmy.
That'll be one day's
can you drop that in
project.
there?
Same way we.
Drop.
By the way, today while we were flying Strega, we had a really bumpy landing. Nothing happened to the gear doors, so just another vote of confidence here.
Okay. All right, next. Sheeting for the leading edge. This is what drove me crazy on all my wings, and I think I come up with a way to get these babies knocked down. Check these out. Pre-formed sheeting that when you go to glue dry with, you know, using ambroid, you can pull these babies right in.
I like clamshells.
Exactly. And this way I've got top and bottom, and I've got one more to form. And what I like to do is, you
Want to
know,
form one on camera?
yeah, do it on camera.
Sure.
And then the technique I use to hold, I try not to use any pins. You know, pins or, I mean, even for doing the molding process, which is something different. When it comes to glue these things down, let's just, as an example here, show you how we'd get in if we were going to glue this down. I use ambroid and one of these, I guess you'd call it a 50cc syringe with a piece of 16th aluminum tubing in there. You know, this is really makes it easy, a little easy to bend. So what you'll do is you'll put cement on your spar. But before you do that, what I like to do is I'll take and I'll make a line on it. I know that I'm going to have a 1/4 inch spar to glue down here, and I'll have a 3/8 flat that's on this leading edge to this 1/2 inch square on this side. And I'll mark that off. You know, the old use your pencil and make a drawing mark like this. And you want to put a coat of ambroid on here and there. Smear it out. It could be thin. Let it dry. Because believe me, this helps.
Pre-glue it. Yep.
Pre-glue it. So after this surface is pre-glued, take your glue gun. You do have to work a little fast, and you have to get things set up, and that's where my tape dispenser comes in. okay?
Yeah, I was mentioning that on a video before. That's
I
a good
take
idea.
my glue gun here. I like to put at least a good 1.5 ounces of glue in. It takes about 2 tubes, 3.5 ounce or whatever these are, 3.2 ounce tubes to do a wing. So you're going to make sure at least you have enough material to do one edge of sheeting. And what I'll do is I'll glue the spar, glue the leading edge, and you want to try to get a good coating of glue on top of your
Definitely
ribs.
on the gear blocks, yeah.
Yeah, and what'll happen, you could go back in and re-glue after this is over, but then what you do is you put this on, and since it's pre-formed, there's no struggling, all the grain is going in the right direction, but you want to kind of pre-fit and pre-cut to make sure it's going to be exactly where you want it. Then I'll use tape to tape, pull back, fold under the spar, hold it down. And
No pinholes.
if you do get something that gets a little crazy and you gotta do one pin, that's okay, but you gotta deal with these holes later, and you get better joints and nicer glue fittings, I think, without the, without the pinholes.
Now, do you have the wing that you originally used for mold for these? You used the...
Well, no, see, that's I didn't. I'm gonna show you. I tried to do that, and what I found, Wendy, was by taking a flat piece of balsa like this for the sheeting, okay, and trying to form it over the old elliptical wing I had, I would not get enough contour to make any difference.
Oh, so, okay, I got the picture.
Here's where the problem comes in, and you can see this right away, is how do you get this flat piece of material?
Right.
Directions.
Exactly. So you got to mold it, and that's what I'm going to show you. I don't know whether you can say I invented anything, but it sure did make it easy, and I haven't struggled much since I discovered this. Okay, so what I did was, I got these little forming blocks. I have one that's set up for my 9 rib, my 8 rib, my 7 rib, and so on, and so on. 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down. Of course, I got lazy and I only did 1 for an R1, but I found another curve that works okay. But I'll show you how this works. Now, the secret to this is that these blocks act as hold-down weights, and I also use them when I glue the sheeting on. But where they come in handy is when you get this piece of wood that's flat, that won't bend over anything, soaked in ammonia. You can use these blocks to hold it down in position. So that's what I'm about to demonstrate here.
And after it's soaked in ammonia, the wood is like
Oh, it's like rubber.
pliable. It's like rubber, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so
Exactly.
what I want to do is I want to make sure I have all my little blocks set up. You might want to, you don't have to run that. And here's what I use for weights are 2-inch nuts. How much do you think a 2-inch nut weighs?
Drop one on your... Oh, my God.
Okay?
I suggest you use these to hold in your next
Yeah.
Super Tiger 60. Jim Greenaway, blind nuts. Oh, you love to
Jim,
hear
that's it.
this.
Pull it up. Okay, so I want to get everything preset here so I don't have to fumble around. Not that the ammonia is going to disappear or go away and evaporate real fast, but just to show you how this works. And then when you're going to glue the sheeting on, I use this same technique to hold down over the tape just to make sure that I'm getting that good.
You're getting a bond for the
Right.
whole length, yeah.
And something else I want to mention here too, and I know you've shown this in other videos, Wendy, is the importance of using a nice sanding
Oh, yeah.
T-bar
Nice
straight
T-bar.
edge. To just verify and make sure that all your
Right, what you don't want to have is that a rib is either sticking up or down where there'd be a gap or a ripple, because
Okay.
the dope will shrink that right up.
That's
You want to have that
important.
smooth contour.
All right. R5, R6. I need 2 more nuts.
You got 2 in the room.
Good. Hey, we're all nuts for airplane.
Hey. Believe me, there's a lot worse things you could be doing
Oh,
with your
I know.
life than this. Holy mackerel. Look around you.
And then my 1 strange block, I'll use this way. Okay, now that I've got the deck set, I know this is the leading edge. It'll be the inboard top surface that I'm working with. As you can see, it's flat. And on the very first wing, I tried to do one of these dry. Figured, I could do that because I did it on I
Right.
did it dry on the Bucks Deluxe. I did
Right.
it dry on the Stuntras, but it was 16 sheeting.
3/32 you won't do it.
Yes, you go crazy, but it helps if you use 6-pound wood, at least. This piece is 5.5.
And you're trying to use A grain here, obviously.
Yes, A grain. So what I've been using is just clear ammonia, all purpose. And it won't stink this room up too bad, believe me.
Use it straight or glued?
No, straight. Whatever's in that bottle. Take a paper towel,
And you only really have to wipe one side anyway.
but I get both sides.
Yeah. You'll see it bends
Oh.
real quick with the ammonia.
Incredible.
The ammonia doesn't, anybody's never done this, if you've never used ammonia in wood, ammonia lets the wood cells, the ammonia loosens up the resin in the wood cells and it turns it, you could make a pretzel out of a piece of wood.
Exactly. So you swab it down.
It's always good to do this just before you have guests coming to the house that you want to leave real early.
Now it
Get Uncle Jack and Aunt Betty out of the goddamn house with it. Come on, what's that smell? He's
opens your
mumbling.
sinuses up. That's one side.
Yeah, you got it.
Get a little more juice. Go in here.
What I did one time, I poured the ammonia into the bathtub, thinking I'd be so smart. Filled it with water so I could dip a whole wing in, and the cat almost died. I can smell it already.
There you can see the one area where it doesn't soak in is where I use thin CA to make a butt joint, because I needed actually 4.5-inch wide material here. But
Yeah, and if you try to use a piece of sea grain on this,
Oh,
forget about it. You want to open a window?
no, that's good. It's part of the
Oh,
hobby.
yes.
Okay, and then what you find is
Woo!
you find out how pliable this is. You can bend
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And I try to work it around a little bit here to
Yeah, pre-bend it a little bit.
to get some contour to it, but it really softens it up immensely. And even though when you see how this is going to be molded, it will not be exactly the line, it'll straight edge that'll go down along the contour of the spar. All right, so we'll start about right there. I'll try to line it up with I'll take my R1. Put that in position, and these, well, however much these 2-inch nuts weigh,
You don't want to drop one on your big pinky
No.
toe or anything.
and then R4, I'll put right over the R4 section, and I'll show you how I shim them up a little bit to make up
Now these just have the reverse curvature of the rib
reverse
for each
curvature
rib, so they're
of each
kind of
rib.
easy to make up.
And I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier on, but I'll tell you, so far it seems like it's working out.
Einstein didn't figure this out in one day either, Joe. Takes time.
But you can see if you didn't have a rigid setup
Oh,
on
forget it.
on the rod and
If
so
you're building this in your lap, forget it.
and once I get them on here, then I'll jog them around and align them exactly how I want to make sure everything is.
Yeah, you have some variation here. I see you're working from the middle out to the tip.
Yep.
And there's really no need to even hot stuff the nuts in place, even though you could.
No, I could.
Because they got a little bit of a thread catching on that balsa wood.
And one on the end, this the airfoil shaped here is a lot tighter to the rib contour than the others, and that kind of seals the whole thing down. But okay, now I want to center these, and I'll tell you, and this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks in building the elliptical wing is getting the sheeting to contour. And this is really simple. I'll tell you, it comes so close once it's dry. It takes about an hour and a half, for at least under these conditions I have in this shop, or bedroom, or whatever you want to call this little place, to settle down. Now I've got some 16th sheeting that I cut the edges to little wedge-shaped
Wedge, yeah. Gotcha.
pieces.
Okay.
Okay, now what I'll do with this is I'll use them as little wedges to
You can shim it.
push under here, and
Just use them as little, just like
Yeah,
cedar
well-
shakes on a door to frame a door.
exactly, just to hold it down. And you got a lot of working time. It's not like you're working with glue, because it's going to stay pliable for quite a while. And if I was going to do this again, which I'm sure someday in the future I'll make another elliptical wing, what I'll do is I'll make more accurate units, but this seems to work for my purposes here. Put these little shims in.
How about an idea if you put on the bottom of this sandpaper, on the bottom of this, just a thought to make this even a better system, sticky back sandpaper.
Yeah. See what
So
I
that it
didn't
couldn't
do?
slide up and down.
I didn't take into consideration my leading edge.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why
Okay.
they made them too short.
You ended at the rib, is what you
Ended
did.
at the tip of the rib.
Okay.
Now that's where if I would have made them longer,
Yeah.
would have fit in. But this,
Jimmy got, by the way, that mentioned that on the video, that sticky back sandpaper that we got rolls of. Man, you could just roll some on there, cut it 1 inch like masking tape, glue it right on. Then it couldn't, what I'm afraid of is somebody would walk by the table now, touch it with their ass and, be 52 pickup with the joint.
what do you think? Pretty.
Amazing.
Oh, awesome.
Huh? Hey,
Now,
Mr.
people out in video land, like I know Bob Martens for one, is a real aircraft engineer and could really appreciate the amount of thought and energy that went into this. So
Well, I'll
give this
tell you,
Adamusco some credit. He's okay.
The thought and energy happened real quick when
Yeah,
I was
when-
thrashing around trying to bend it. And,
Yeah, I'll
and then
bet.
after I discovered that old elliptical wing that I had, and I'll get downstairs and get it, bring it up here so you can see what I'm talking about. It just wasn't working. And hey, this is what I enjoy about building is you learn something new. And I learn from Wendy every year something new comes up, and it's
Well,
problem
you learn from
solving.
each other. No one person knows everything. Everybody knows
But
something.
see, the little gaps that are in it, that is close enough. So when that use one in here. It's close enough. Now, using that technique to hold the leading edge sheeting down after you have it glued, you're going to have tape. It's going to be taped under here and holding this back.
Right. Or you could put
And then after
little
you're done, then you put the
clothespins.
weights on, and that makes sure that each rib locks in. And then I'll go through and double glue. But that's how you form it, and really, I think it worked out great.
It's an unbelievably good idea. By the way, I got an idea. Just thinking of something. This gave me an idea. I wonder if anybody out in video land has a way to make this better. If we made a top block out of 10-pound wood, and then you made these reverse kind of things out of, the reverse curve of the top block, which obviously you can do with a wood, the shaper with all the little pins. You know what I'm talking about? You could actually make a female mold of the top block. So that you could do this with the male mold and a female mold.
You can mold, yeah.
That you could mold top blocks. Once we had a final Spitfire top block, which obviously may or may not happen.
Hang on a sec, I'm gonna get downstairs. I can squeeze through there, Jim, and I'm gonna get that old wing.
Yeah, I saw it hiding on the shelf down there.
It's like a stick.
Is that the no-eye wing?
Yeah, which I guess for a 35 airplane is okay, but what I found that there was no way that I was gonna.
There's not enough airfoil
No.
in it. Yeah. This is almost
simpler. You don't ruin the edges of your balsa.
right. So even if you already have a fully sheeted elliptical, oh, this is really flimsy. Ooh.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Scary.
But
You know what happens when you grab like one of these thin wings? You say, "Ooh, where's the
but
beef?"
this is where it started for me. And,
Yeah. That's
Right.
not a pattern master wing. I can
No.
tell you right now.
And it had too many curves to it. In more ways than one. A lot of warps. But hey, I think these wings are going to work out. They're going to be straight.
These are the tip blocks.
You know.
Oh yes.
Tip block. And then ultimately, these are 4 flaps. We're not going to use 1-inch flaps on these. I'm going to use. But there's your.
Oh yeah.
There's the unit.
Spitfires.
Okay.
You guys are a topless bar here. Spitfire.
Okay. So that's
Spitfires.
how that's
I feel
going.
like a pervert.
And that's why it's important to make sure that you got nice right angles when you glue that in. So when these.
Oh
blocks-
yeah, everything can't be all cockamamie out there. That's for sure.
And it all gets shaped and tuned in and blended down and curved out. And initially, I'm going to taper this tip to be whatever this is, 1/4 inch, and then kind of work it down finer from there up to a center line. But that'll happen. I got a lot of work ahead of me before I get to that point. But yeah, we're getting to be there.
made C's that have a 90 degree to the table and have the exact C. So as it clamped in,
Right.
it would do the top, and you could also use it. You could just clothespin on your
Hey, the next time.
one. Yeah, I know. No, but I mean one.
Next time, like I said, you learn by doing.
One
Justin
idea
Rossi
leads.
said that or something.
One idea leads to the next idea. I'm already getting ideas for how to mold a top block or a bottom block from this.
Sure.
And if we really go crazy, you know what the,
if you need 2-inch nuts, I can get them for you.
you know what the ultimate would be if we could do it on this plane, because it'll be worth having too. Fiberglass cowling. Never would
Sure.
chip, dent,
No,
rust, or
that's
peel.
right.
You know.
And easy
Talk to Joe about making up a little mold with dental plaster, and we'll pour our own cowlings.
Okay, let's talk a couple minutes about what these flaps are going to look like. And this is essentially the flap outline that's on the drawing. I think the general curve, they're longer than we're going to need here, obviously, but
Roughly same square inches as a PM.
exactly.
Okay.
Now, these will probably have a little fillet tip cut out on them someplace. We'll arrive at that later on. I decided not to build that into the blank wing because it just makes it harder to sheet and harder to establish and measure whether or not you really have a true, your wingtips are exactly straight. So what I did was scrounged around. It took a little bit of looking and discovery work and so forth, but I come up with 4 pretty good pieces of
C grain.
sea grain.
C grain. I don't
Yes. And
know. Now, did you run the grain parallel to the trailing edge or point to
exactly, just
point?
like
Point to point or trailing edge?
trailing edge.
Okay.
Well, see with elliptical, curves.
Yeah, it's not as critical. Yeah.
So I got the grain runs pretty much with the trailing edge of the curve here.
That looks like nice wood, boy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And we don't want them warped because they're going to be
No, by the way, there's a good idea what Joe is showing right now. If you're going to make identical parts and keep them from warping over the summer or the winter or whatever,
Look at that.
let them. Oh my God!
Uh-huh.
Literally eat your heart
Check this
out.
out.
That is nice.
And it's not 5-pound stock, it's 6-pound, but it's...
Yeah, by the way, that's another thing I mention over and over on the tapes is never try to get the lightest piece of wood for a flat. Get the straightest
Okay,
piece.
so quarter grain, these are not going to warp,
Well, look at the grain in this.
and when they will
man.
be tapered down, they're going to,
Spitfire. Look at that pebble. Pebble grain.
basically what I did was, knew what my plan form, oversized plan form is going to be, that is in length, not the curvature. And I got a piece of, I guess that's 3/4 white pine,
Mm-hmm.
and established my layout over top of the white pine, rough cut it out, sanded to the exact contour, okay, because this block is then going to become,
That's part of your jig.
that's going to be part of the sanding jig, where we know it's going to be a 1/4 inch flap. So these sanding units, and I'm going to have to get some of the right size, will be push pinned on or nailed on at exactly 1/4 inch on one side. And then my other sanding strip will be positioned, and these are the ones you're going to take a 1/16 off of one side. But when I do this, a 1/16 will come off 4 flaps. Then the jig gets rotated over. The 1/4 inch gets reestablished. The 1/16 gets reestablished. Then you do the 4 flaps, 1/16 off of that taper. And it takes time and sanding, but they're going to be nuts
Right.
on perfect.
Right. If you do it all at once, you build in a warp.
That's right, exactly. Which, I learned that the hard way, and that's
Well,
how
that's the only way you can learn.
That's
Who's
right,
going to
so-
teach you this stuff? Einstein? Yeah.
So that's how the flaps will be shaped, but that'll come after this wing sheeted, and the tips are kind of sanded out to some, dimension or contour, but made a little progress here, buddy.
Wow, I'm impressed.
And
I'm impressed.
I know this whole project's
And
gonna.
I know in one day at my house we can get the gear blocks in both wings, the wires bent,
Hey, don't worry, I'll be pest-free.
whoa, the pizza cooked, all the important things.
Yeah, this has come so darn far,
I
This is
believe
super.
in getting off to a good start. Now, see, this is one of the things I had this blanket time to use in the month
Right,
of July
right.
because of other things that were going on with me. But so I took advantage of it. And actually, in April, I started, doing rib outlines and working on some things.
Well, now just let me mention one other thing on tape. If anybody out there is contemplating building a Spitfire and they want information or some ideas or some inspiration, just give Joe a call, drop him a letter. We're already corresponding with, what's the guy's name in England?
Roger Lads.
Okay, I'm corresponding with him too, and there's got a letter from a guy in Australia with a Spitfire postcard. He knew I was building a Spitfire, so get somebody interested in this. We'll make an interplanetary deal out of
Or
this
it
one
doesn't
way or
have to be a
another.
Spitfire, it can be any airplane.
Yeah, or if you wanted to make
put a
just an
Spitfire
elliptical
wing in
wing.
any airplane.
And when you're all done, I mean, you're not doing this for nothing. When you're all done, it's a Spitfire.
There, did you see these pictures? Restoration. What do you think of my wood shop, James? All I need,
All I see is the wood.
I've got, which is my #1 main tool, and I'll show you that.
Joe, just offhand, there's 18 or 19 different Spitfire models. How many are there altogether?
Exactly.
18?
24.
24. Okay, so we could really have a large choice of.
24 variants.
Oh my God, 24. I thought there was only 12 or something. Shows you what I know. You know, with Billy Werwich building semi-scale now, and other people I know building semi-scale, there's a good chance you could even win the concourse with the Spitfire.
That window, you don't have central air in here. I still have dial telephones too, you know, and no computer.
No computer,
No
keep
computer,
it that way.
dial telephones, and a window air conditioner.
All yellow.
Don't let Jose see that.
This is the paint job I like with the yellow on the bottom. Those radiators by the wheels.
Brockway Truck International.
Brockway truck yellow. We only have about 4 gallons of that down in the shop. Oh, I love it. We got these pictures from England, by the way.
Stripes.
Yeah, that's just
They look so cool with the D-Day stripes on them.
Yeah, you gotta have D-Day stripes. Walker Cup stripes.
But again, like how accurate do you want to get? Like
Yeah, this is not a scale model. We're not making a scale. We're not entering scale. We want to make it that's cool.
D-Day stripes. Who
You can
cares?
put everything on it. Doesn't matter. Because
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think he sent me the same look at the scoop on this thing. Did you see the scoop on this, Jim?
yeah, that was what they called a tropical air filter. When they flew these things in North Africa and places where they, in Italy, where there was a lot of dust in the environment.
Oh, to
Rather
keep it
than
all out of the
because you
engine.
eat the engines up with, you know, you suck that dirt in, which we know.
Yeah, we know from
Now
flying.
see the shape of this stab
Yeah.
as compared to the shape of the stab on one of the
Yeah,
earlier
it's a lower
models.
aspect ratio, yeah.
This is what I think we ought to use, and that's why, you know.
Let's see what you came up with as far as the stab shape,
Yeah.
so forth.
Well, you want to see it?
Yeah, you
No,
got the...
I haven't. It's not full size joint. That'll happen.
He files it away on the S for Spitfire. Look at this guy.
S for
Right here.
Supermarine.
Right here. I'm looking
Supermarine Spitfire.
at
Oh.
Supermarine project.
And we're not
That's
into
where-
this too much, are we, Joe?
That's where it goes.
Keeps the dust down by the
Keeps
floor where you
it
can
down low, and
vacuum
I
it
usually
up.
have a little shop vac in here and clean it up because my wife's in the bedroom or in the living room or something like that, and I have to do a super job of dust control. And I know you read your article in the Aircraft Modeler.
Oh, I go crazy breathing that
See,
stuff in all day.
I wouldn't have room for a setup like that, but
Well, you
I
don't
have
need it
to
in
have a
this
switch.
one.
You know what I did? I wanted a 10-inch disc. For years I've been working with little 6-inch little ding dong things, and you can't get enough nice wide flat surface setting. So I found a cheap, made in Taiwan unit, and I
Who
bought
makes
it.
this? Sears Roebuck?
Well, I don't even know who. But what I did is I took it and I hacksawed all the extra junk and stuff I didn't want. I cut it all off. Even got rid of the switch. I want to turn this thing on. I plug it in. It's a little bit like your sander.
Yeah.
But it's heavy.
UL
You
rated.
got a lot of power.
Plug it in and unplug it when you want to turn
Believe me,
it
that
off.
nice table here.
Yeah.
I can. Here's a simple thing. Like if I want to make a right angle cut on something, what I'll
Do
do
a
is
little demo on it here.
I don't want to grind.
Good for doing your toenails
Yeah,
too. Your
dude.
toenails get long, just shove your
What
foot
I'll
in
do
there.
is that I'll put this on. I'll put a piece of index card stock behind it as a shim, and I'll tape this down onto the thing.
Right,
Then I'll just run my wood up against it.
and you got 90s.
You know, you don't have to have this miter box, all this sophisticated, because it's still basically razor blades and sandpaper. But this really helps you get nice, clean. Like if you like these 45-degree joints, I sanded those. I got those perfect. That's the one tool that.
I heard a good saying. George was telling me about. He watched a show about Michelangelo. Said Michelangelo had a hammer and a chisel, and that was it.
That's right.
No other tools.
But not a lot of extra. Yeah.
Even the closet is
You want
nice.
to see some more Spitfires?
Spitfire. I'm getting sick of saying it. I feel like a crazy man. Oh, this book. Yeah, I've seen this book. Oh my God, give me this book. I'll take it home. You knew my birthday was next week, right? If anybody out there would like to buy me this book for my birthday, it's
You wanna borrow it?
$110.
One apart. Jim, did you ever see this one?
This really is worth the trip.
This is the trip.
This is the book of books if you like this kind of nonsense. Whip it out to the Spitfire. There's a picture of a Spitfire wing in here.
Is this Jane's Old World Aircraft?
No, this
Oh,
was
this is the best book I've ever
the
seen.
great
War
book
II
of World War II airplanes.
Spitfire.
But what Wendy's talking about is this pull out right here.
There's a pullout. There's like a half of a Spitfire wing or something. Look at this. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, that's where you got the plans from.
Look at this wing. I mean,
Look at the machine guns, hey, the
yeah,
cannons.
this should almost be illegal.
We could put ammo belts and everything in it if you really wanted to get
man.
into it. But there hasn't been another airplane like it. That's what's so unique. That curve.
Spitfire, yeah.
And they were super maneuverable, under 20. Side squares, bam, bam. You know, it'd be something nice to look at. See the DWK squadron.
See, here's what we got to work on, finding some scalish looking wheels like that. No, this will have to say J, W.
Well, J and A for me. And yours could be
Yeah.
WWU or what? I don't know. What?
Wendy's videos.
Yeah.
PSP.
Let's see. There. Look.
Wendy's dumb videos.
Hey, now if you really want to get into it, look,
Oh,
you can really get into it here.
oh my God.
And you study the way they built the.
Yeah,
This was a tremendous wing because they were able to put more different kinds of armament in it, and it had space for ammo, and the wing was
This
rigid
book
enough
really
that
is
it could take
worthwhile,
all these
believe me.
guns. That's why it was a Spitfire, man. It had a lot of firepower.
We're really sick.
This is like
Now we
this
have
is
the-
our real world.
13.6 rev up. Brian Ether 3 blade. Bali 4 blade. The Forget It 10 blade here, or 25. Oh, give me a break.
And the Randy Smith counter-rotating 6-blade.
Oh no. Merlin engines,
Yeah.
Griffins.
Hey,
Oh,
put floats
oh.
on it.
Big wheel pan, Midgley wheel pans, yeah.
But see, this is what's interesting here. Even though this has that Mark 21, 24 wing, that wasn't the
Yeah,
two
it's the
other-
clip tips, yeah.
It's got the Griffin, it's got the bubble. Look at the paint scheme, the yellow here, the roundels, the red, white, and blue, the whatever kind of stripes they are. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Isn't that neat?
gotta have invasion stripes.
Hey, white
Even if we're
spinner
not
with a blue
invading,
tip.
invade Poland, you know, anything.
There, it almost spelled. He is, and
Yeah, this is the
Thompson-
naval version with the Griffin with the counter rotating, the resting hook. Could even fly this in Dave's carrier event.
And even I looked this number up. This is a crowbar. I guess if the pilot landed funny or needed some help getting out,
Needed
you
a
could help
crowbar to get
freaking
a
pry
change
some
a
of the-
tire or something.
Yeah, probably to more or less pry the airplane off himself. The Spitfire pilots that were like on whatever their Sunday activities were
Yeah.
to keep current on it, they loved to take these things up and just buzz around all over English
yeah.
airspace doing stunts.
Great book, by the way. Anybody has never seen this
Yeah.
book,
Jim, you want
buy
to
it for me.
No,
Okay.
I
Awesome.
wouldn't want to have it.
Now, as we finish this exciting, this has been an unbelievable day with Joe. One of the things for sure is we want to, before we leave, get all his Air Force on video here. He's taking the planes out of Iraq one by one.
No.
Ah, look at his face. Put it right in the van, Jimmy. Don't even. Hey, Joe, by the way, if you happen to, you don't feel so healthy, you feel like you're going to die, my address is 93 Elliott, and people would think I built this.
I don't know.
Cardinals. Oh, man.
You got a good hand free? No, that's not a,
No, you better put that right in Jimmy's van right
that's
now.
not a major.
Oh,
All
man.
right, what this is
Give me a little show and tell here.
that's a cardinal. That's your 80, whatever your
Yeah.
cardinal.
The big
89 cardinal.
Big bopper. It's a twin brother to my yellow and black cardinal. The only difference is that I moved the rudder back enough to give me a wiggly.
Right, to do the
rudder.
wiggle
It's
jiggle.
got the same kind of setup with the kind of a flattened off block. Heavy duty front end. I don't have the what the hell do you call them now? You call them blisters or those little fillet?
Yeah,
Oh.
valve covers.
I didn't put those on, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to paint it. Last year I tried to finish 2 airplanes in 1 year. Mr. Awesome, and maybe I'll do it this way. I'll put this one down and I'll put the cardinal right in front of it.
Yeah.
And it started driving me a little crazy because with the sanding of silver and all that, it gets to you after a while. And so I decided.
Hey, the football season starts Sunday. You better start sanding, Football and sanding go hand in hand.
So
Now, these are the twins.
They're twins, except for the wiggly rudder feature. And,
Yeah, I think
of
you're
course-
better off with the wiggly
of course,
rudder.
landing gear. But my plan is to eventually finish it. And it's really, I just have to sand off that silver that's around the fillets. I got one piece of hanger rash on one of the elevators where I dinged something into it. Fix that, but just have to come up with a paint scheme. I would like to do that one red, just because I never had a red airplane.
I wish I could see
But if
that.
it happens, it happens. What's that?
400 red airplanes in my life. Mr. Red.
Well, I have nothing. I mean, it's not a tank, but it's got the same wing as this cardinal and the other cardinal, except it's got the kind of the stuntress look. Now this has a geodetic stab on it, Wendy,
Yeah.
and
How thick?
wiggly rudder.
That looks over 1/2 inch thick though, right? Or just half?
That's 5/8.
Yeah.
What happens as you make the stab thicker and thicker, it blankets the elevators. That's the part. You really don't want to make it any thicker.
Because I
than it has
think
to
I
be.
used, I had real good 1/2 inch
And-
stock.
Right, and you sheeted it on each side with
Yes.
16.
A little squeaky, but, and I'm pretty sure this airplane will fly okay. It's just a matter of, doing it.
John's got a whole bunch of SIG contest 1/2 inch A grain in stock right now, 1/36. And I got a couple of pieces of 1/4. Real light stuff. I hope people
Who's
don't buy
John?
it. John Misk.
John Misk.
Nice if you're going to make a stab outline, make a
Yeah,
curved
it's
stab.
no, probably people are buying it for him to make profile fuselages. out of
Yeah,
it. It's
right.
useless for that. But damn, it's pretty stuff, That nice white, super white balsa, real powdery, dead A grain. You can hardly see the A. For stabs and elevators and that kind of stuff.
So we'll see how this guy flies. Obviously, the only thing that's going to fly this thing's a 60, which is okay. With
Oh, yeah, don't even waste your time with that.
I mean, this is like ace in a hole airplane. If I need it, I can do something with it.
We could get this trimmed in one afternoon. You don't even have to be there. Just give it to me.
I'll,
Give me a
What
gallon
thing
of
with
fuel and some tip weight and stuff.
We already got the little stunt machine.
Yeah. Put a 60 in that, too.
Yeah, you get that set up. I got to do the controls on this again. But this is what started me on the old elliptical wing kit. And I thought, well, hey, someday it'd be nice to build a big 60 size box with a, the Spitfire PM kind of wing, and maybe that'll still happen. But then maybe there'll be something entirely new and different that gets you excited. But
No, I'm pretty excited about the Spitfires.
Yeah,
you did
that's-
a good job of ruining my summer,
yeah, but that's the fun, I think, is getting
Oh, for
excited
sure.
and turned on to different kind of a. Try it, and and it's going to work because of the kind of.
So I'm in my beautiful Victorian living room, and guess what I'm watching? I know you'd be surprised to know. Dancing with Spitfires. Karen's dream come true. I'm up here watching Dancing with Spitfires. Now just watch. This guy's a race car driver. You think he'd have a Ferrari or something, a Lamborghini? Probably has a Ford Escort or a Windstar. Unbelievable. Can you imagine? I could be downstairs sanding Spitfires. Dancing with Spitfires here. Unbelievable. What do you have to say for yourself, Karen?
Dancing with the stars.
Dancing with this. She loves this. Oh, look, he does have a Ferrari. Amazing. What kind? It doesn't even tell you what kind of car it is. It's a Lamborghini. Oh, man. See, if the guy was a real Dancing with Stars, he'd have a Ferrari. He'd have a Spitfire. Oh, my God. Anyway, this is how Karen and I spend our evenings. So romantic. You can't believe how lucky a boy can be. So Karen, am I the perfect husband that I sit here and watch this with you? What does the perfect husband do? He watches Dancing with Stars.
Perfect husband takes dancing lessons so he can do this with his wife.
Forget it! Forget it! Dancing with Spitfires. People have called that overcast, rainy day. It rained all night. Terrible. Just terrible weather we're having. Oh, the wind is starting to blow now too. And what I did, I got up early this morning. I wanted to put the tank shim parts in the oven. And they should be ready to take out as we speak. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah. Okay, now they're done being post-cured. They're ready to do the trimming and installing whenever. Now as I take a look at these, boy, these really dried up nicely. Again, the beauty of this is we've taken something that normally goes along for the ride, the tank shim or one of the tank shims, and turned it into something that's going to add, I think, a lot of strength. Now the next thing is, of course, because we've laid this on that flat sheet of Teflon, we've got a nice smooth surface. It's oversized in all the dimensions. Next thing we're going to try to do is just get a nice even trim on this. Yeah, that really came out nice. So the first step is just to trim off all the extra carbon fiber. And because they're oversized, then we'll install them first and then do the final trimming of the edges. And that's ready to install. Now as I install each one, I want to make sure I marry them up because they've been fit perfectly oversized, or a little bit oversized. Once the glue is dry, then I'll accurately block sand this edge at 90 degrees so we have everything at totally 90 degrees on this. Now making sure I get plenty of epoxy on both sides of this joint. This is one joint. You don't want to compromise at all. And this is a trick that works even if you've already flown the model. Gluing a tank shim in will always contribute to the rigidity in the nose, hopefully give you a better motor run. A little less vibration in the plane, which is always good in every way it can be good. I want to make sure I get a perfect glue footprint on both sides. Now just give that plenty of time to dry. While that's drying, we got plenty of other shop projects to work on, so there's never a time I like to rush epoxy drying. Now I could trim these off And the final little bit I want to get, and of course this will just rough off all the extra material that sit outside the motor mounts, and then I'll get my 90-degree block to do the final screwing. And the final thing is, these blocks have a full 90 degrees, so when you tend to hold them like this, you're getting a pretty accurate 90-degree cut on everything. And boy, when that's done, does that make for a rigid crutch? Wow. And one of the things I wanted to allow for on these crutches, kind of an upgrade, and I don't have the back plate on the motor, but what happens, the back plate and the screws extend back quite a bit, about 1/4 of an inch. And what happens is, when I want to run tubing up to the uniflow lines or to pipe pressure, or this is an area where I've always had a problem getting stuff back there, getting my tubing back there on the Novanta. So what I'm going to do is just cut a little relief out here, so that I'll have room to run the tubing. If I choose to put the uniflow vent here, I can run that tube down. And in the past, I've had to run it around the engine and back. Not the best way possible to do it, and because it was very difficult to get in there and cut that. Once the plane is built, it's difficult. So I just want to give myself just a little more clearance, and actually it'll serve an additional purpose. It'll let some coolant air get through there too. Kind of 2 for the price of 1 here. Anyway, it looks like the tank shims and the crutches were coming up on the end of having these, and they are, I think these are about as good as it gets. Now it's relatively easy to make this transition with just an ordinary sanding drum, a Home Depot sanding drum. Nothing special about it. I just want to give myself some clearance there. Maybe the thickness of a piece of fuel tubing will be fine. One of the things I did not do on the Novanta, I wound up having a little bit of a problem. They're always snaking that tubing through. Again, one of the things I want to have on this project, more than anything else, is just choices. Different choices of how I want to handle different things like the tank venting, pipe pressure. We wound up really liking running the engine on pipe pressure last year. Just a little bit more and I'll have just enough room to get in there with the tubing. That'd be nice. This is always a handy tool, an ordinary ink marker, and they come in all various sizes, of course. That just allows you to get in there. And what I've done is all these exposed end grains, I've sealed them with thin CA, just so when we attach this, we get the best possible bond there. And as we go through the project, we'll be making up more and more of these little sanding dowels and drums and things that we need to do the job at hand. Now that should really allow us the luxury, if we want to or have to, of even with the back plate on, routing that tubing or venting or something from right behind the motor. Now these, as far as the crutches go, these are really, I think they're going to be really good units. And this actually is the foundation for the fuselage. One of the next steps we have to do is set up to do our doublers and fuse sides, but in this session, this is all we're going to get done today. We've got a lot of other stuff happening at the shop, and probably tonight I'll have to watch more Dancing with Stars. That remains to be seen. We'll find out.
Well, something that you don't see on the video, and I want to take a minute to share this with everybody. Today is a very, very, very special day in the life of Wendy and Karen. This is a day that we have planned for and waited for for 16 years, I believe. And today is that day. Now this is a special morning even at the breakfast table. It's not even light out yet. We don't even have birds yet. But it is a special, special day. This is the last day that Karen and I ever have to get up with an alarm clock. And Karen is going to celebrate this tonight in the usual way. And we're not going for pizza, I heard that.
Nope, not pizza.
This is the last of the Mohegans, the last day.
Last day of work.
This is your last breakfast. It's like you're on death row here, for crying out loud.
Quite the opposite.
Life row.
Yes.
But and in 8 hours, is it 8 hours? In 8, 9 hours?
Actually, I have a card here that says, from Mary Ellen and Bill.
Oh, from Mary Ellen and Bill, yeah.
This is the first day of the rest of your life.
Well, this is our last breakfast. The birds haven't even come out to celebrate with us. It's an unbelievable accomplishment. I am so proud of this woman.
28 years on this job.
I am so happy. 28 years
On this job.
on this job. I can't believe how good this breakfast is going to taste.
Cereal.
Now-
Cold cereal, right.
Now the thing that's
After today, I can make you pancakes and waffles and eggs.
happening is we're about 3/4 done with our renovation, our apartment renovation. We've been away from the model shop for a week or so, maybe a little more than a week. But we're going to hopefully wind that up soon. And then it's going to be Spitfires. Retirement and Spitfires. What a combination.
Party time.
It's party time. Let's start by this. Here's the best thing in the morning. Turn on the coffee maker. Let's get coffee going, baby. Well, and on the first thing I always look for when I come outside in the morning, there's almost no leaves left. Flying season for this year went by faster than you could ever imagine. It's just an unbelievable thing that Karen is retired as of tomorrow. Now in our neighborhood, an awful lot of the people do their walking early in the morning before sunrise, and Karen and I are going to join them soon as we become retirees as of tomorrow. Now, for some reason, the birds don't seem to be impressed that Karen's retiring tomorrow. Tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. So don't quit your day job. Well, when we look back at the year 2007, and we look back at our beautiful tree out there with no leaves, all leaves are on the ground already. I already have some garbage over here. What we have to do at this construction project is we bring the garbage over here because the town won't pick half of it up. They only take a little at a time. Maybe tomorrow I'll go over there and I'll show you what the construction project's looking like. But we've been working on it for about a week already. Every time we have to renovate one of these projects, it's a nightmare. And this time our beautiful tenant is in jail, so we get to throw all his shit out. It's unbelievable. Okay, baby. She forgot how to drive. She's so excited she forgot how to drive.
See out the back window.
But what a day to back into something.
No, it's frost on the window.
Don't hit my birds.
All right, sweetie. See you later.
Now tell me, if you plan for your future well, look at this. She can't back out of the driveway. That's unbelievable. And if you plan for your, I wonder if these birds plan for their retirement. If you plan for your retirement, someday you'll be making this same trip. Or maybe you've already made it. I don't know. And that's Karen's last day. 28 years of working for the town of Secaucus. Now normally we already would have shut the pond down and you can see the leaves are all over the place, but because of our construction renovation, we've been kind of saddled. Do you think these fish care? Hey, do you guys care? Do you think they care? I feed them every morning. Hey, well, we're not going to work on a plane today. In fact, we're going to try to get one of the other issues over at the rental finished. But as soon as this, I'm hoping my son is going to take this apartment. We'll find out. And as soon as we're squared away there, we'll be back working on that Spitfire. Spitfires. Now normally we'd be following that bus to go down a flying field with the wild hogs. But for the last week or so we've been
going off to our rental renovation. A little detour in life, but I hope in a couple weeks this will all be history. And with Karen retired, we're going to be doing a lot of this work over at this rental property together. There's a chance my son might want to take this this apartment for him and his girlfriend, so we're trying to do a really above average job. And to be honest, as this job is unfolding, we're starting to have a little level of appreciation. I think it's coming out pretty good so far, but you decide. And anybody that's ever had rental property knows it isn't easy. And people that have never had rental property think the checks just come in the mail and you never have any dirty work. Well, you decide. If you remember back when we pulled the sewer line out of this house, we did it in the middle of the winter on a snowy day with a backhoe. What a mess. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. What a mess. So here's our beautiful piece of rental property. And this is what this dude left. And we had to cart everything out of the top 2 stories, go down 3 flights of stairs. Look at all this crap. You believe this? And this is the dude that had no money to pay the rent. He's got 9 televisions, 25 VCRs, 10 cell phones, every luxury item in the world except for paying the rent. And anytime you think owning rental property is just a big ball of fun, think twice. What a mess. What a mess this is. Unbelievable. And this is after we got rid of some of the stuff. We actually got rid of some of it. And it had to come all the way down from that 3rd story. Most of it had to come down to 3 flights of stairs. So before you run out and feel like I don't deserve a good life flying. Anyway. And so what this might be, I don't know. We're going to get rid of some of this stuff today, we hope. Work on the rebuild. It's quite a job. It's quite a job just getting rid of this stuff, believe me. Now, believe it or not, even after getting rid of all this stuff, there's still one more room of stuff that's got to go. But that's on the 2nd floor, so it's a lot easier. And we may get John DeTavio over here today to measure up for the new carpeting. Well, it's going to be a long, next couple of days are going to be really labor intensive. And we got to get some of this tree trimmed. We're going to have a tree guy here next week doing some of this this tree is just totally out of control. So it's just a pain. And we still got all this junk to throw out along with what's out there already. There's already a ton of stuff out there. Unbelievable amounts of junk. That's all I can say. Beyond junk. But some of it's cleaned up. We got a good bite on a sheetrock work. Spackling. This room up here is just ready for the 2nd coat of paint. Now, believe it or not, when I was a kid, this used to be my bedroom. The only reason I'm showing this, when I was a kid, this is where I built model planes. This is where I had my train layout. Of course, there was no sheetrock here, no insulation either, believe me. Oh my God, what memories these old houses have for me. Unbelievable. But we got a couple of rooms cleaned up, but boy, there's so much more to go. This, if you can imagine, this is just an unbelievable, for me, memories. When I used to look out this window as a kid, my dad raised chickens in the backyard. We had chicken coops, goats. Oh my God, there was just so many good memories here. These sheds are so dilapidated now, they really need to be torn down. But great memories of being a kid, riding my bicycle, digging holes. Oh my God. But when you come back to your childhood, it's a moving experience, to say the least.
When we did this, they wouldn't believe what we did.
If I videotape, now John and I and George Venturini. We redid this whole place, this whole deal.
Oh, man.
My son is getting introduced to the world of
Yeah, we had
two
this-
family houses.
We had this stripped to the bone.
Yeah, I was
There wasn't
here-
even a piece
I
of
was-
sheetrock
I was
up.
here at that point, actually taking the stuff out.
You were here, yeah, you were helping us, right?
We had a race stripped to the bricks. You remember when we cut this window?
I know. You were the one, you almost fell out the window. I remember. I thought he was drinking on the job.
Get your window. We put us in jail.
Oh, well, no, it ain't over yet. Maybe they will have us in jail.
No, they can't. Now they can't prove it. Oh, we had more fun here. Oh.
This was some job, John. Every time I come in here.
We never used the molding, all the joints.
Oh.
The bevel upstairs. Oh.
Don't even go there.
5 gallons of buckets of sheetrock patch.
5-gallon bucket a day. A day.
Oh, man, we plastered that thing right up. Right, you know where the angles are?
Yeah.
We never even used the molding. We could have covered it with wood molding.
I'll bet we put 50 gallons of spackle in this house.
What we did. How many yards?
How many yards altogether?
I don't know. I didn't,
We got the linoleum upstairs already. We just need to know the number on the carpet.
I didn't figure that. The yard is going to figure it right away.
Just give me a rough idea so when she goes to look at carpeting.
It ain't that much. Yeah, I'll give it. 15, 22, 4, 5, 6. Well, that's 80. About 80.
You sound like a guy figuring out a lunch order here. What are you talking about?
Right?
Well, John was a big help yesterday. Craig was a big help, but as we're getting further and further into this construction project, I'm really missing flying every morning with the wild hogs. And it's disappointing that these rental properties have turned out this way, but there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. And in fact, then we're going to make a decision this weekend whether Craig is going to want to move into this apartment eventually, and maybe we'll get something out of this. But right now, it's pretty depressing every morning driving down here instead of driving to the wild hogs, as you can imagine. Every day it just gets closer and closer to winter.